Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Kermitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week we are discussing 3 more episodes of Season 2 of Muppet Babies. And those are the episodes titled I Want My Muppet TV, Musical Muppets, and What's New at the Zoo. And as a little bonus, we watched the last episode of the 2018 Muppet Babies series, The Muppet Babies Show, from 2022. And the reason we watched that is because today we have a very special guest segment with animator, screenwriter, storyboard artist, director, producer, and voice actor, Matt Danner. He's the man behind the voices of Kermit, Beaker, Rolf, Chef, Mr. Waldorf. Probably more that I'm not even remembering right now on the 2018 reboot of Muppet Babies, where he also served as a supervising director. So, yeah, everyone, welcome Matt Danner.
Hello.
I'm seeing double, 2 Matts. This
Two
is going to
Matts.
be really confusing.
You can call me Maddie.
Maddie and Matthew, that's what I'll do.
I mean, one of us could just be Matt then.
Nope. Nope.
Well, yeah. Hello, Matt Danner. Welcome to Kermitment. Thank you for being here today. I guess as an introduction, beyond all the things that I just listed, could you tell the Kermitment listeners a bit about your history with the Muppets as a fan and eventually as a professional?
I mean, it's funny. Somehow a blurb of that got into like all of my like online descriptors where it says like when Matt was a child, he thought Kermit was talking to him through the television set. And so I'm crazy. But no, I was a kid of the 80s. So like, obviously there was a lot of TV involved and Sesame Street was definitely the thing I watched the most as a kid. I mean, I loved all the Muppet stuff, but like Sesame Street was definitely my intro, especially to Kermit, because he used to be on on Sesame Street a lot more. Like he's not on it at all anymore. But
No.
one of the reasons why we rebooted Muppet Babies was because we were like, we need to get Kermit back into preschool. But there was sort of what really affected me about it was just. And it did feel like he was talking to me through the TV, which is why I sound like a crazy person. But there was just sort of a calm, human-y nature to Kermit that other, cartoon characters at the time, because I didn't know the difference, didn't have. They never really spoke to camera and they never really talked to you. And that was something that just really resonated with me as a child. And I always felt like Kermit was my buddy. Like I knew him and I could trust him. And if I ever met him in real life, we'd be pals. And so that was my introduction. And obviously I love Bert and Ernie and Big Bird and all that stuff. And then I eventually got into the Muppet Show and, because they started playing reruns of that on Nick at Night. And so I watched that every day. And then all the Muppet movies like Muppet Caper, I had pretty much on a loop. Because I love that movie so much. I just thought it was so funny. And and then eventually all that Muppet knowledge came in handy when I was at Disney Plus, or it wasn't Disney Plus yet, but it was a department within Disney Labs, cooking up stuff for the future. And then the Muppets ended up moving in, Muppet Studios. Ended up moving in next to us, and they asked like, "Hey, do you got any ideas?" And I said, "Do I?" And that's how Muppet Babies was born for a second time.
So you'd already had the idea cooking for a Muppet Babies reboot.
Not really. Like it was because basically the department I was in was called Advanced Media, and so our task was to develop Disney IP into things that was not television or movies. So the first thing we tackled was streaming, because we're like, well, Disney's going to have to play the streaming game at some point. So we did a show. It's actually the posters behind me here. It was called Legend of the Three Caballeros. It was It was Donald Duck cartoon. And then we were developing an Oswald cartoon, which some of that stuff got leaked. We were developing a whole bunch of stuff. We developed a whole bunch of like AR and VR stuff, virtual reality with Pixar. We did a lot of stuff with parks. We did stuff with those Vinylmation figures, those Mickey Mouse like blank figures.
Yeah.
We did a show about that. We had a whole slate of stuff, and then the Muppets actually moved in. Right around the time they started doing like YouTube shorts, like Muppet Thought of the Day and all that stuff.
Right.
So that was a result of them moving in with us. And then that's when they developed the ABC show, the Muppets Primetime Show. And they asked us, our team, like, hey, is there anything we should be doing with the Muppets that isn't what we're already doing with the Muppets? And, my thought was we got to get Kermit back into preschool. And that's where we started developing it. So we did a test. And, the one thing that I think differentiated ours from the original was that we wanted to do it animated, but we actually wanted them to look like the puppets.
Right.
So that's something that we didn't have when I was a kid. But there was that segment in Muppets Take Manhattan where they were like, that was Muppet Babies. And I was like, why isn't the show like this? Even as a kid, I remember saying that. So that was sort of my angle was like, let's just make it look like this using animation. And we did, and it worked. And, and the experiment worked where we actually created a whole new generation of Muppet viewers that didn't exist. Because we actually did some focus testing, and we focus tested kids and millennial parents, and none of them really knew who Kermit was. And it was kind of an eye opener of like, oh, well, here's the problem. Because, as we all know, Jim left us a little earlier than he should have. And at that point in the 90s, Kermit sort of disappeared from Sesame Street, and Elmo kind of came in. Mm-hmm. And became more the face. And so you had that's 30 years of no Kermit in preschool. So there's 30-year-olds that didn't ever get to meet Kermit the way I did and the way you probably did.
Right.
And so that was our goal. And then that's why, if you notice, you mentioned the last episode of the Muppet Baby show. We actually did that on purpose because the way Disney Plus we got it to work was that as you watch the last episode of Muppet Baby show, this is your introduction, you get to watch an episode of the Muppet Show, and then Disney Plus will then take you to episodes of the Muppet Show. So we were hoping to sort of indoctrinate kids that way. And apparently it worked. I mean, they say that the viewership is still really high, and it still does really well.
So in your head, are there a couple decades where we're not seeing the Muppet Babies grow up into like the Muppet teens, the Muppet young adults, and they're doing the Muppet Show, and then we kind of catch up with them again when they're like loser middle-aged people? I
guess, yeah, if you're going by the canon of the movies and stuff. But no, I mean, like I always like, the fun thing that I remember about having just like getting into like, when we did our Muppet deep dive with the Muppet Studio, and like they gave us sort of like how, we did sort of immersion. We did an immersion. Mm-hmm. And but one thing that kind of came up was that they kept saying is like a lot of things weren't canon.
Sure.
Like, for instance, like Muppets in Space is, Gonzo's an alien, but then they say, but that's not canon. And then if you go back in time and you watch all the Muppet movies, like the first Muppet movie is Kermit in the swamp going to Hollywood to make his show. The second movie, him and Fozzie are twin brothers, and they have a dad who's a weird freak frog green thing. You know what I mean? And then in Muppets Take Manhattan, they're all college students. So the canon was there is no canon. The canon is that they're basically just actors and performers that live amongst us that do these projects, including pretending to be babies.
Yeah, we've tried to wrap our head around, obviously, as we go through, our chronological journey here of like figuring out, like, we've accepted that there can't be a historical canon because it's constantly uprooted, it's constantly upset. The closest we've come is that, like, okay, everything is a performance, except when they're on like the Tonight Show or something like that. Like, I'm going to accept that that's Kermit, and everything else is a performance. Yeah. That's obviously my personal headcanon.
Honestly, I feel like Sesame Street Kermit is, to me, the closest canonical one, because that's like where he lives. He like goes home to Sesame Street, and everybody just annoys him so bad all the time. That's just where he has to live in New York.
Mostly Grover.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but if you look at that initial like Sesame Street, it's not really a pilot, but it was like the sales tool. Where it's Kermit and Rolf.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to sell the show. And Rolf's like, oh, I'm going to lose everything. I need the show to work, Kermit. And Kermit's like, well, and it was the more like, hipster groovy Kermit that's like, well, maybe
Yeah.
you
Weird time
you can
for
do
Kermit.
like Open Sesame, It's just like that weird like hipster Kermit. So, but
Yeah.
but he was always he's a businessman too,
So I guess like when you're creating a show like the newer Muppet Babies, were there rules that you had in place of like, okay, this is gonna be canonically true for us, even if the canon is there is no canon?
I suppose. I mean, for us, it was just we just want them to look like puppets. That was really what we did. Is like, let's do Muppet Babies, but let's make sure that a kid can look at it's covered up right now, but look at the characters in the show and then look at the adult version and make that connection. That's really all we wanted to do because we felt like the original Muppet Babies, which was a great show. I mean, I loved it growing up, but the even just how the characters sounded, and no offense to the voice actors, I mean, everyone was doing what they were doing, but like it wasn't as one-to-one as we wanted it. And that's why, if you notice, we really leaned into even just like Fozzie saying hubba wah and like a lot of the catchphrases and stuff like that.
Right.
Like we got all that into Muppet Babies because we wanted that connection. And to be honest, it did work. Like when we started focus testing kids now after that, Muppet Babies was now common knowledge. They knew who the characters were. They knew all their names. And we were able to actually show them episodes of The Muppet Show. And they knew exactly who everyone was. And what was really funny, though, because we created Summer Penguin for it, we got a lot of kids asking, where's Summer Penguin? And so we just kept pointing at the adult penguins and said, oh, she grew up into that.
Yeah, that one over there. She just walked off stage.
Yeah.
That was her.
The third one to the
Yeah.
left. Yeah.
So how do you explain, Rozzy, Skeeter, where are they at?
Well, Skeeter, I mean, she showed up in a comic.
That's true. Yeah, she's off adventuring the world somewhere.
Yeah, but we did reference that. Like, we actually did want to make sure that there was all that thing. We wanted it all to connect. So if you notice, like even stylistically, she does sort of match that comic book version.
She got the same glasses. Yeah.
Yeah, and we did that on purpose. And Rozzy, who knows? I mean, Rozzy's probably an accountant somewhere or a lawyer.
She's hanging out with Jill, wherever Jill is.
Jill, hey, we got Jill in the show. That was a deep cut that we never thought we'd get.
She didn't come home for the Muppet Family Christmas, though. That's sad. She became estranged from her family at some point.
Well,
That'll
again,
happen,
remember,
though.
she was just a child actor. Like, she's not actually
That's
Fozzie's
true.
sister.
Or
She's only
she's
Fozzie's sister in Muppet Babies. That's it.
Or she's a better child who talks to her mom more regularly and knew her mom was going on vacation.
Yeah.
And so
That's a good
burden her by showing up at her house randomly with all of her
500
friends.
people. Yeah. When it came to like watching did you watch a lot of the old show to get prepped for this and take things away? And
We were actually like cleaning it up. Like, we actually did a whole digital restoration on it.
oh wow.
And I think the idea originally was to get it onto Disney Plus. Unfortunately, we also had to go through all the contracts. And now I didn't personally, but I heard lots of stories.
I bet.
And we're talking like napkins. We're talking like just a Post-it that just said like Stan Lee said we could use Spider-Man for this episode.
Oh wow.
Star Wars, okay.
Yeah. So there's I don't know if someone's still on it, but like it's going to be a while before we see those episodes actually out again under a Disney banner, because it's all over the place. I mean, it was really all over the place, and that's not, anyone's fault. At the time, it was just like, hey, we're making a show. Hey, we're in the same it was Marvel Studios was then, was producing it. So they were there. And then, they got George Lucas to accept a bunch of stuff. I mean, when we it's funny because we almost thought, oh, well, this is great because Disney owns all this stuff now. It doesn't matter, right? And then and the legal team was like, no, it does, because all of that contractual stuff matters as far as the paper trail goes and everything like that.
Yeah.
So so it was not but we had planned to do it. And then we cleaned up the Muppet Show as well, or the team over at Disney Digital did. The seasons 4 and 5 were the big surprise.
Right, that most people hadn't seen since they aired, or in reruns on Nick at Night or whatever, because they were
because they never
never
got released on
released.
DVD.
Yeah. Well, but again, I think some of that was actual contractual stuff too. I can't get into the weeds on it, but because I honestly don't know, but I remember that they had to cross some T's and dot some I's before they were legally allowed to release it.
Right.
And I think there's some music that's been changed, and I think there's some sketches that have been cut.
Yeah, there's definitely some noticeable chunks cut out of some of the episodes. I'm thinking of the Marty Feldman episode where the Sesame Street Muppets show up, and there's a part where they sing the Sesame Street theme song, and that part's just cut out.
Well, again, because they're different companies. It's like you have Muppet
Yeah.
Studio and you have Sesame Workshop. Like those are two different companies. So that's ultimately, you know, what between like, you know, 1989 and now, like that's all the stuff that needs to sort of be combed out. But I would say never, because it's there. They have it. They have every episode, and I believe it's all been digitally restored.
Some poor lawyers out there tracking down the rights to the Three Stooges meet Hercules or something before they can finally publish it.
At first, it was people on our team that were just like digging through stuff, and they're like, "This is nuts!" Like it's literally a box of like placemats from like Art's Deli or something, you know, or like, I don't know, well, probably it wasn't Art's Deli, but you know what I mean.
Oh,
It
the
was, like,
Post-it notes were from back in the day.
yeah,
I see
yeah.
what you're
These were
saying.
all
That's
like the
amazing.
deals that they did to get the rights
Right.
to like Indiana
Right.
Jones, but literally it was like, oh yeah, we asked because I think maybe they did like stuff at Skywalker, so they were like, oh, we just asked
Right.
George Lucas if we could use, you know, and it was in the title sequence. So
Right.
you know that's
Yeah,
that's
every
that's every
episode, that's
episode. So
Well, and at the time too, like George and Jim were working together on Labyrinth, and so they had a close relationship. So I'm sure it is like, yeah, I don't care, use some Star Wars in your thing.
then even now though,
Yeah.
because we you know in the first episode of Muppet Babies we did the Indiana Jones scene, but we had to do all of our due diligence to get that, even though it's within the same company. We're like, oh, we'll just use it, and they were like, no. Someone at Disney Legal said it might actually be easier to get stuff from outside of Disney than from within it.
Wow.
You know, well,
Interesting.
because it's got to be buttoned up, you know, because
Yeah.
it's all very, very, you know, high end, expensive intellectual property, you know. So
I guess, yeah, was that I'm sure there was a lot of discussions around that sort of like the original show relied so heavily on stock footage and movie clips. And I guess what was the discussion around potentially leaning as heavily on that kind of stuff versus doing more of the animated imaginary sequences?
our whole thing was, oh, well, now that we have the magic of CG, we can actually composite the characters into the movie. So our pilot, like our little pilot thing that we did, we just put the characters into Star Wars. We had the kids flying around playing TIE Fighter, you know, blowing up the Death Star, and we actually we got clips from the first the trench run, and we just composited the characters in the shot whenever there wasn't ships, and it looked great. But then of course, like once we showed it to everybody, because we didn't ask for permission on that one, we just did it. Like we just ripped it off of a Blu-ray and said, look, isn't this great? And then like they were like, we love this, it's great, but we're not doing that. We're like, oh, so we had to rethink the show a little bit. So that's why the imagination sequences, while inspired by styles or events or spoofs of things, we had to always create our own version of it.
Well, you're one of like literally a handful of people to have portrayed Kermit the Frog. I guess like one, how does that feel? But two, also like, did you go back and watch a lot of Jim, a lot of the original Muppet Babies to prepare, like, again, not only Kermit, but you're a lot of other voices on the series too. Like, I guess how much research was involved in going back, or did you already have them in your head pretty clearly?
It's funny because it was wonderful. Like it was a really super cool experience. I felt like I was just part of something that was much bigger than me, and there's nothing like it. I mean, it was for lack of a better term, I'll say it was magical. But yeah, no. Originally, I wasn't even planning on playing the characters at all. But when we, you know, as I do voice acting, you know, I do a lot of sound alikes. I've done a lot of that over the years, and I do voices on whatever. But usually, I'm like, hey, I'm Goblin number 3, you know, or whatever. I'll play like bit parts, but I always do my own scratch because I kind of know what I want to do. So for the Muppet Babies test, I just did the scratch. And, you know, I did Fozzie and Piggy too, but they didn't really have like dialogue as much as Kermit did. But I did all of Kermit's dialogue, and, you know, I just, you know, and I did exactly what I wanted from the show, which is I wanted it to sound like the adult Kermit, but just a little squeezed. I wasn't trying to match the original Muppet Babies version, which was the Frank Welker version, which is also great. But it wasn't, again, we were going for this sort of 1-to-1. So I just did that, and yeah, so I researched a little bit and I practiced, but I always assumed that we were just going to dub over the voices with the performers or somebody, I don't know. But then when they saw it, when Muppet Studio saw it, they said, hey, this is actually really good. we can just, let's just use this for now, and I was like, okay. And they said, actually, can you do other characters? And I of course I was like, oh yeah, Rolf the dog. And, and I just did all the voices that I, one of the old guys, and they even said like, wow, your pipes, somebody said your pipes are not too dissimilar from the gym stuff. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I didn't really think much of it. But then later on when we were auditioning, we had a lot of auditions, and, what we, and a lot of it didn't sound quite right. And so I was like, can I try? And Tom Warburton was like one of my biggest supporters, by the way. Like that, we could never have done the show without him. He was like, yeah, give it a shot. And then I got the call back, and then I got another call back, and then I got another call back. And every time though I practiced. So I just went in the booth here, and Eric Bauza, who's also like my real life best friend, which is crazy, got a call back for Fozzie. So we started like helping each other out by like basically directing each other in the booth and helping us get closer and closer. So we did a ton of work and a ton of research, and figured out, well, what's Kermit, and then what's Baby Kermit, and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we eventually made it to the end, after like 8 or 9 callbacks. It was a lot. And yeah, and that's how it went. And then, but it was like, sort of, they're like, all right, Matt, we're taking a big swing on you because you're not an actor. And I'm like, I know. And they're like, don't screw it up. And I did my best. But, I passed the first. I'd been in the booth many, many times. So I was, I was very nervous. But yeah, no, after the first record, they went, that was great. So you're Kermit.
Did they say you're also Rolf too? Or was that a whole nother process?
Every time a new Muppet sort of was introduced, the question was, well, who's going to play it?
Sure.
Because I also played Beaker, just because I could do I could do a really high squeak that was funny, and I could sing in the squeak. Uh-huh. And so they're like, all right, yeah, you do Beaker, and then Bowser did a really good Honeydew, but D. Bradley Baker ended up playing Adult Sweetums. He was able, we just sort of like said, all right, who can do the voice, and then we did it. But I tended to get a lot of the Henson stuff just because, I would just do it, and they'd go, all right, yep, that's Rolf.
When I only just realized when we were talking just now that you played Baby Rolf, and as I was watching, I haven't seen a ton of the newer Muppet Babies, but I was watching it and I was like, man, they nailed Baby Rolf. That's just Rolf.
We actually pitched that one up because it was easier to get Rolf to sound right by me just doing Rolf and then pitching him versus me like trying to pitch him up. It just didn't sound right. He started getting too nasally because Rolf's in the chest. It's down here. And so we didn't want to sacrifice that. So we just said, let's just record it. And we tried some pitching it, and it worked.
We mentioned a couple of them, but like you guys chose to introduce some new Muppet Babies. Not only like obviously Summer is a whole new character, but you have a baby chef and a baby Sam and a baby Sweetums, characters that we hadn't seen in the old Muppet Babies. We don't see every Muppet in baby form. So I guess what was the decision like to introduce a baby chef or a baby Sam?
Honestly, again, we wanted to introduce kids to the Muppets proper, like these are the Muppets. And obviously we wanted new characters. Because, well, really, and truth be told, it's no secret that like, there's not a lot of women Muppets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. That are part of the main cast. So that was something that we really wanted to do. So that's where characters like Summer and Rozzy and even Jill eventually came from, because we're like, we need, it's all dudes. But the goal was always to eventually introduce all of them. But the problem was that, those little models were expensive. So we only got a few every season. So for instance, on season 1, we only got 6, and we only got Rolf because, everyone wanted him so bad in the show. But we actually had to repurpose Fozzie's rig to do it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just had to like squish and squash him a little bit.
Yeah, it's Fozzie's body. We recolored the fur, and then we had to like fix his face. So that's why season 1, Rolf was the only one we introduced. But then when we got season 2, we're like, hey, we got a budget for like 4 or 5 new Muppets. So we're like, all right, now we're doing Scooter and Skeeter, when they're 2, that's 2 right there. And, Swedish Chef and Sweetums, like we always wanted to bring Sweetums in and more. And if you noticed on the walls in the nursery, we always alluded to who we wanted to bring in on the next season.
Mm-hmm.
But, eventually we got to the end of our run, which was a very handsome run. I mean, we did like 75 episodes, which is plenty. And so we didn't get to do everybody, but there were talks about doing Baby Electric Mayhem. I know we got an adult Dr. Teeth in there at one point where we actually had Bill Beretta come in and do the puppet. But we were talking about having that being Dr. Teeth's dad, and our version was Dr. Tooth. He's like, Dr. Teeth is my father's name. We're gonna get him in there. But I'm pretty satisfied with how many we got in, because eventually, again, we got to do the Muppet Show, and we got Bunsen and Beaker, and we got to do all the classic bits.
And I noticed a picture of Beauregard in the last episode on the nursery wall.
We tried. We were gonna get him in. We were gonna get like Link Hogthrob in, and
Oh, and I'm just picturing a baby Thog walking around.
Yeah, we wanted to get more monsters in. We put all of the Muppet monsters, like we sprinkled them throughout the series every time we needed a gargoyle or a statue or something. And we wanted to get Uncle Deadly in there. Wow, we were gonna call him Dudley.
Yeah, like baby versions of Uncle Deadly or even Pepe. I'm just like, I would love to see that, because my brain almost can't imagine.
Pepe would be like a little larva or something. That'd be cool.
We had plans for Pepe too. It's just tough because we also needed stories that made sense. Yeah. So like, for instance, Sweetums we got to introduce because we introduced him as the monster next door, which is like the scary neighbor that you don't know about. So again, when the story called for it, it made sense.
Yeah, I think introducing Sweetums as a character to the kids too is one of those things where if you just turn on the Muppet Show, he might be a bit scary for kids, but now they're like, oh, that's just Sweetums. I know that guy.
I knew him when he was a baby.
Yeah, that's why actually we added eye highlights to him, because we go with whatever would be technically canon. So like, for instance, Miss Piggy, the puppet, the adult puppet, has felt eye highlights in her eyes, and we put those in our puppet. So we were like, well, I feel like because of that we could do it for Sweetums. We actually gave Sweetums glowing eyes too, like the puppet, which we used, I believe, in a one episode. But it was scary looking, So that's why, if you notice, he's got like one rounded tooth, and and he's got the big doughy eyes. But it worked. No, and kids loved him.
Speaking of designs and a little creepy, notable in the last episode of Muppet Babies, there's a little cameo by, at the time, an unknown character named Blurf, who has since gone on to some internet fame, thanks to Tough Pigs and other places like that. For those that maybe have no idea what I'm talking about right now, can you tell us a little bit about Blurf?
So Blurf was like, sort of became our studio mascot, like not the Oddbot robot mascot, but like our fun in joke in the studio. And it was because we got a render once of like, so basically all the characters had what we call fur shells, where when we're rendering them they're not rendered, but when we do what's called play blast, which is like rough animation in CG in 3D, we have an indication of where their fur is. So like Fozzie, for instance, his ears were only actually this big, but the fur shell was this big, so that he had the big, ears that would flop. So we had that for all the characters, including Animal. And at one point we had a render still that came out where all of their fur had jumped off of their bodies, and it was just like sort of a little off frame, and Animal's was all the way off. And he was in this pose where he looked like he was like itchy and like his teeth were gone and stuff, and we're like, but he had all these little, what didn't go were the little the strands that anchor the rigging of his fur. Right. So he had all these little strands of hair, and he just looked so sad, and like we just started joking around about it, and we started drawing him, and then like Chris Moreno, our art director and producer, named him Blurf, and then it just kept going, and then Blurf became the inside joke for The Office. We had people dressed up as him for Halloween. Wow. And we had all these stories about how he's like this like the unknown Muppet that lives under the porch, and he hides from everybody, and so it just became a thing. So eventually our overseas studio, Snowball Animation, they got in on the joke, and they started doing renders for us of Blurf in various scenarios. And then that became a joke. And then eventually when we got to the Muppet Show, one of our board artists, Pez Hoffman, put him in the corner as a joke.
Yeah.
And then we saw him there, and we're like, oh, that's hilarious. And then we said, well, let's try. And like, everyone was like, they'll never let us do this. Like Disney Junior will never let us do this. So Tom let me write a very impassioned letter to Disney Junior where I said, look, this would mean a lot to the crew, and we'll put him in a spot where if the Disney Junior bug, like the logo shows up,
Right.
it'll cover him. So
You're
don't
gonna Mike
worry.
Wazowski him.
But is it okay? Can we get him in the show, please? It would mean the world to the whole crew. And they were like, okay. So, and then Blurf made it into the show and became a phenomenon.
You've mentioned this is half a question. You mentioned a couple times like parents or living under the porch, and in the new Muppet Babies, it's very clear that they're just like kind of at school or they're like at somewhere. The old Muppet Babies, much less clear about that. Did you spend any time pondering the relationship of the old Muppet Babies and Nanny?
So we do have them show up to school in our version, and we have them say like, bye dad, and bye mom and dad, or, so we alluded to the fact that they have parents outside, and this is a daycare that they are dropped off at.
Yeah, that's
during
good.
the day, and then they go home.
It's really creepy to watch the old one, and that is not the case.
Yeah, the only one we show is Fozzie's mom, because she's already, technically we've seen her, and so we put her in an episode where Fozzie, where all the Muppet Babies have a sleepover at the nursery, and they all have to get their parents' permission. But then Fozzie ends up missing his mom too much, and then we do a whole song about that, and she shows up in the stars, and so we actually showed her. But we only alluded to the rest of them. I did have one gag that got cut where Miss Piggy gets dropped off, and then we always needed an excuse to get Miss Nanny out of there. So that the joke was always like Nanny kind of sets up the episode and goes, well, I'm gonna go in the kitchen, see ya.
Yep.
I'm gonna go take a nap, bye. And then she leaves. But at one point we said, Piggy, I need to go talk to your mom for a minute. And I actually recorded some scratch of her going like, oh, well, hello, Mrs. Pig. And then I went, I did like a weird pig noise. Sorry, that blew out my speaker. But that got a huge laugh, and like everyone loved it. And then we showed it to the network, and they were like, "No." But anyway, that was the closest we got to introducing another parent.
That's fun. Yeah. That's fun though, because it's like, with the old one, there's so many times where Nanny, like we literally just watched an episode last time where Nanny comes back from grocery shopping to check on the kids. And so she wasn't even in the house at this point. And there's so many times where it's like Nanny leaves and the kids are like, all right, let's bust out the scissors and the go-karts. And it's like, oh, this Nanny is quite irresponsible on the old series.
Yeah, we tried to fix that a little bit. I mean, she still kind of disappears for long periods of time. Like, oh, wait, let me go get the snacks. And then like, that's the episode,
Yeah.
But we also... we go in our show, we go into imagination a lot, and we kind of stay there for the entirety of the episode. Unlike the original Muppet Babies, there was a lot more in and out, whereas in ours we kind of pick an adventure and we stick with it. So the amount of time the kids spend in that adventure is long. It could be any amount of time. So you could say, oh, it was just a minute, in human time.
Right.
Also, because it's imagination, you can imagine, oh, maybe Nanny has come out and checked on them a bunch of times, but you just don't, she's not part of the imagination, so you don't see her. So we were able to sort of negotiate our way out of that, because it is a thing. Like, I'm working on a Disney Junior project now, and it's very important that we have the sort of the caretaker around, at least in the background now and again, or just so that it's like, oh, the kids aren't just like by themselves.
Not in the 80s, though.
No,
it was fine.
It was just, lock the door and leave the house. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys also have shorter, like you make two shorter episodes that make one 26-minute long chunk or whatever. The old Muppet Babies the whole thing was one episode, and it was just like, it's easier to get away with Nanny being gone for 10 minutes than it is for half an hour or several days, seemingly.
Well, it was easier for us to write single adventures too, because that was the other thing, like, because in a half hour it's almost like you could say like, oh, well, then it's just two, but it's really not. It's more like 3 or 4 if you really want to like stretch that half hour. So for us, 11 minutes was perfect because we could do that, and then we also got to do a lot of really cool stylistic stuff.
At one point, there was a decision made, obviously, with the newer Muppet Babies, to make puppet versions of them Was that something that from the very beginning you wanted to get done?
Yeah, we actually filmed a test for that where I just got one of my Kermit puppets, like store-bought Kermit puppets, and we went to Baby Gap and dressed him up. And then we recorded a little test with one of our studio manager's niece, just to sell the concept as like, because what had happened is we're still producing season 1, right? But with the way pickups happen sometimes, there's gaps, between seasons. Like usually like Disney's pretty good about like, stacking seasons so that there's never a break. So it's sort of the show just goes, at least on Disney Junior. But in this case, we had like a 6-month gap where we didn't have anything. So Tom and Chris and really all of us, all the gang, Guy and all sort of were just kind of trying to think of ideas. And the thing that Disney Junior also does is shorts. So we're like, well, let's do some shorts, and then but we need to produce them quickly. So we were like, well, what's fast? Like, because doing whole CG shorts wouldn't have been quick. So we were like, well, let's see if we can sell them on puppets. So we did, and so we shot a little test. We showed them how it would go, and they loved it. And then the Muppet Studio team they're fast. I mean, like when it came to all right, let's get those puppets made. We got them made at the Puppet Heap, which is the Muppet Puppet headquarters in New York. We flew up to New York, and we showed them sort of how they work, and they made the puppets, and then they brought them back down. We brought the performers in. We brought Matt Vogel and Eric Jacobson and co. Came in to play the characters, to do the actual puppeteering. We built like just really, really simple sets in Burbank, and did it and shot them, got them out. Like, me and Tom wrote them all, and then we looped them and then put them on the air, and then that actually bridged our seasons. And so that was originally, and then we wanted to do more, but we just didn't get the opportunity. There was talk of doing like maybe a Christmas special or something like that using the puppets. The issue is just that like, we were so like once we hit season 2, we were on, because even our season 3 order was like a double order. So, for season 1 was like 20 episodes, and then we ended up eventually with like almost 80. So there wasn't a lot of time to focus on that. The only reason we were able to do it is because we had that little gap. But it was really cool. It was a really, really fun experience.
I mean, it's another thing that serves as a great transitional thing for the kids who already know and love these characters, and then there might be a disconnect a little bit if they go watch the Muppet Show and they're like, this looks a little different. But if they're seeing puppets of Baby Kermit, Baby Gonzo, and then they see those adult puppets, they're like, oh yeah, this makes sense to me.
The only thing that's different is they all decided to take their clothes off at some point.
Yeah, when you're an adult Fozzie, you have the freedom to choose what to wear.
Your hair's come in enough. Was recording the last episode sad? Because it made me so sad, and I hadn't even watched all of it, and I was sad.
Everyone cried at least once, including me. The really sad thing is that we were doing that during COVID. So we were all recording from home too, so we couldn't even be together. Because like we basically all of seasons 1 and 2 we recorded together as a group, which is very rare these days because everyone's busy and a lot of people do home recording already. But that was the thing that really was special, is that we got all of us together in a room, and we all got to feed off of each other and stuff. And I think a lot came out of that. Even just ad-libbing and joking around and trying to make each other laugh. Like that's how, for instance, like, if you actually think about it, Kermit doesn't really have a canonical laugh, right? Like the adult Kermit, if you think about it. Like sometimes he does sort of like an Ernie, right. Or sometimes he does kind of a ha ha ha, like when he's like being like, showy or dramatic.
I feel like he's not like, he rarely, if ever, genuinely laughs at something. He's mostly mocking people. He's like, ha ha, real funny.
Or he'll sort of laugh like when Jim will laugh, he'll laugh to himself. But we didn't have a Kermit laugh. So I was trying to figure that out, because in the show I kept having to say yay and laugh and giggle and all that kind of stuff. And eventually all I did was I kept trying stuff out, because if you notice early on, like I think Kermit goes like ha 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 or something like that. Didn't sound right. But eventually I got it to this like kind of like funny giggle.
Right, yeah.
And then it made Tom laugh. And I was like, all right, now I got it. So all I did was anytime I could make him laugh with Kermit's laugh, I tried. And that's that. And the weirdest one always made it into the show. It was always like, you know, like and the noises just started getting weirder and weirder. And, you know, Kermit does a lot of weird vocalizations anyway. So going like, or, you know, and stuff like that was always fun to do. But the giggling that ended up becoming like really core to this version's character, you know? So season 3, we got cut off halfway due to COVID, and we all had to go home and work. And, you know, I had already had my studio set up. So, you know, it was easy for me to transition. But, you know, it was tough because all of our interactions were now like on a computer and not in person. But I will say the cool thing is that having them in my ears was still the same. So if I just sort of if I looked down or closed my eyes, it felt like I was there with everybody. But it was really sad. And like, my favorite story from that is, there was a scene where I had to say that like, I don't want to say goodbye. And Kermit was supposed to get sad in the acting. And I ended up getting sad for real. And I ended up crying for real. But because of that, the take wasn't very good. and then like, and I remember saying it and crying for real and having to like step back. And then the direction I got was, can you do it again? Just a little clearer, please.
Less
And I was like, sorry, I'm crying for real. And they're like, oh my God, sorry. But then I was able to sort of get it together and do a little bit more of a clear acting pass. But there were a lot of genuine emotions in there for real. And then, but what's great though is like, you know, he goes, see you later. And then the door closes, we go to the window, and then all of a sudden, whoop, we go to the Muppet Show. On Disney Plus.
On New Muppet Babies, you have mentioned you got to work with your best friend. You got to be one of the handful of people to be Kermit. Is there something that stands out to you as the best moment or the best part of getting to work on a Muppet Babies series?
The studio felt like the Muppet Show. You know what I mean? Like we had a bunch of kooky characters all working on the show together, and we all probably annoyed each other too at times. But no, it was a family, you know, and it was, you know, productions generally are kind of like that, but this one was special. Everybody felt like they were doing something that was, and I said it before, that was bigger than them, and the amount of love and respect and energy that got put into the show was all genuine. Even just like everyone was fans, you know, like everyone who did it. And what was great is that we had people helping us, you know, insert things that would mean something to Muppet fans, you know, because we were Muppet fans. So there are Easter eggs galore in that show. I mean, even just an episode where we go, oh, well, we're going to do one where Kermit's a director, right? But like, and he gets frustrated with everyone not doing it. But we literally referenced that Sesame Street sketch where Kermit's a director and he's directing Forgetful Jones, you know, and it's like that, Oklahoma, you know, or you know, Oklahoma. And it's like, no, cut. And we literally just did that sketch. We did that, you know? Yeah. And so that was really what was special about it. I really think, you know, the culmination of it where it's like, we're on the air, we're getting, you know, nominated for awards, and then we were standing on set with real versions of the characters and the you know, the performers, the Muppet performers were there helping, and like it was just like, I don't know, it was like a dream come true, because that's what Muppet Babies do. They make your dreams come true. So it worked.
That's right, it's in the song.
But I would say one of the coolest things was when I got word from Muppet Studio. I hadn't met them yet, but that the Henson family signed off on my Kermit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They as much as they're not like part of Muppet Studio, they are still involved, you know, with a lot of it. So there was a point where I believe, at least as I was told, like, you know, they played my takes to get their blessing, and they gave it. So I thought that was pretty special.
Well,
and I would later work with them. I'm still doing some stuff with some Muppet people. So, you know, some little secret projects on the horizon.
A little tasty tease there.
There's a little tease there.
Oh yeah, thank you again for being our guest today. This is unrelated to Muppets, but you also worked on the Looney Tunes show, so I'm going to recommend everyone should go check out that because it's one of my favorite animated series.
It's an interesting one. It was definitely an experiment.
I love it. But on top of that, where else can people find you? What else should they go check out?
Well, if you want to like follow whatever I'm plugging, that's on Twitter or X. Whatever you call it. I'm at Maddie Danner. So if you follow me on that, I usually just use it for jokes and for promotional stuff. So you'll see what I'm up to. I can say that I'm working on a new Disney Junior show that's coming out soon called Kindergarten the Musical. If you've heard of High School the Musical, this is Kindergarten the Musical. And it's a lot of the Muppet Babies folk working on it, including Oddbot, the studio, and Tom Warburton. It definitely has Muppet Baby vibes. Like it kind of is in that same universe, but it's a different show. Yeah. And then I got a bunch of little secret projects that I wish I could talk about, but they're pretty cool. But my suspicion is you'll start seeing some of that stuff drop. And so, yeah, if you follow me, as soon as I have news to share, I will share it.
We will definitely keep an eye out. And thank you again for being our guest today.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Huge thanks again to Matt Danner for joining us today. But now, Sam, it's about the time that I ask you the age-old question. What do we watch today?
October 26th, 1985, Saturday morning. Halloween anticipation hangs in the air. You polish off a bowl of Frankenberry in front of the TV. A commercial for a local car company featuring a man in a Dracula cape doing a terrible accent ends, and the Muppet Babies theme blares across the screen. This week, in an episode called I Want My Muppet TV, the Little Freaks TV is broken, so they cut off the front of a cardboard box and take turns climbing in and performing their own TV shows for their friends. Kermit presents the news, Gonzo does a Star Trek parody, Rolf does a music video, because of course Rolf would do a music video, various babies do commercials, and finally Piggy appears on Johnny Carson to do an interview and sing a song, while Fozzie tries to sneak on the show and make Johnny laugh. In an ending you can see coming from basically the first line of the episode. When Nanny tells them that the TV is fixed, they tell her that they'd rather keep playing pretend TV. In the real world, you decide to keep watching real TV, brain empty and imagination safely unengaged. It's November 2nd, 1985. This Saturday morning is like any other, except this time you have a shitload of Halloween candy to eat. You rifle through your trick-or-treat bag idly as you watch TV. Because you are not a real child, but a device for making Muppet Babies episode synopsises more interesting, the show you are watching must be now and forever Muppet Babies. The episode this week is called Musical Muppets, and in it, Rolf gets an invitation from the company that made his little baby piano to enter a song contest. He writes a song, and then the other babies basically tell him that they're jealous that he's good at writing songs. He's the only one with the actual real talent of all the Muppet Babies. So he feels bad for them, and he helps them all write their own songs for the contest too. And they do. And guess what is weird? They're not all doo-wop songs. What is happening? The last episode didn't have a doo-wop song either.
Yeah, there's a musical shift happening during this batch of episodes.
I'm very curious to see if it keeps up. If they just said, "Fuck this, we are not writing sock hop songs anymore."
We're out of ideas. We've referenced every doo-wop song we know. We're out of ideas. Yeah. What do we do now?
It would be cool if they just were like reggae. It's all reggae now. The next one is reggae. Anyway, after they finish recording the tape that they're recording on breaks and it all spills out of the machine. They fix it the best they can, and Nanny sends it in for the contest. A week later, the winner is announced, and it's all the Muppet Babies. Huh? How did that happen? Turns out when they fixed the tape, all their songs got mixed together into one terrible song. I guess that all the other songs entered in the contest must have been total garbage if their song won. But it's avant-garde, I suppose. Also raises a lot of questions about this one. We'll get into it. Imagination in real life, and this one, completely out the window. Finally, November 9th, 1985. Being that you're a child, you have no idea how good you have it as you sit and watch endless hours of Saturday morning TV in your little robe, eating some toast that your mom made you. Your biggest worry being that you have to do like 10 extremely easy math problems before the weekend is over. Life will never be this good again, and you have no idea. Anyway, Muppet Babies is on, and while playing a game of Big Game Hunter, Rolf reveals that he thinks zoos are cruel because animals have to live in cages. Nanny pops in to tell the babies some zoo propaganda, and then give them a book, and all the babies take turns looking at the book and playing pretend to convince Rolf that what he believes about zoos is wrong. Zoos are nice because the monkeys get to do the Olympics or something. Zoos are nice because Gonzo thinks he's an anteater or something like that.
The reasoning is a
Anyway.
little flawed.
Yeah. Anyway, they eventually, just through sheer whatever, I don't know how they do it, but they break down Rolf's resistance. And maybe he's just annoyed. He's finally just like, okay, fine. Zoos are good. Maybe zoos are nice. Nanny comes in after that and says she'll take them all to the zoo tomorrow, which honestly is something she should have just done right away instead of making them all pretend like they knew.
No, she
what
had to
the
wait
zoo was.
for the other children to convince the one child who was reluctant that zoos
Yeah.
were good first. So it was like, yeah, you all get to go to the zoo if you can convince Rolf that zoos are cool.
Yeah, it's an exercise in the advanced interrogation techniques that they'll all be doing because they're being trained on a CIA black site. But yeah, she should just take them to the zoo instead of making them pretend about the zoo and making us watch them pretend about the zoo. Elsewhere in 1985, around this time, not really a ton of notable pop culture stuff was happening, to the point where the release of the movie Transylvania 65000 is one of the more notable events.
Oh boy, that's no one
A
has ever
movie-
said the words notable events and that movie's title in the
A
same
movie
sentence.
that, by all evidence, I should love. It should be one of my favorite movies. I can't, literally one of the few movies I can't even sit through.
I was gonna say that does feel
Unfortunately.
like if I was gonna, if somebody asked me who likes that movie, I'd say there's a chance Sam is the person
I
who likes that
wanted
movie.
to. I tried. It has sexy Gina Davis in a vampire outfit. It's just so bad.
Well, elsewhere in the world of the Muppets around this time, and both of these come from Jim's Red Book, from Jim's journal. October 26th, 1985, he wrote down George L. in UK editing.
George Lazenby. One time Bond actor. Is that right?
No, obviously not.
Oh, okay.
It's George Lucas.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
So back in 1984, George Lucas had agreed to be the executive producer on Labyrinth, which involved him giving script notes mostly and overseeing the production. And then in September 1985, an article in the New York Times came out that was called Star Wars and Muppet Wizards Team Up in Labyrinth. It's a pretty good article.
Great headline.
Yeah. I'd recommend checking out the full thing if you can, although there is a creepy part where they're talking about Jennifer Connelly and call her tall and leggy. And she's 15 at the time of this article.
Yeah. We had a ways to go back then.
Yeah, not great. But one part has a quote from Jim talking about basically, why is Labyrinth going to work? And he was saying the hardest thing artistically in The Dark Crystal was making the two leading characters believable. And then, in some of my favorite bits of editorializing from the author of this article, I'll read it. Here we go. So, we have the hardest thing artistically in The Dark Crystal of making the two leading characters believable, says Mr. Henson of the bland boy and girl mechanical gelflings who seem to have wandered into the Dark Crystal from a Disney cartoon.
What the fuck?
Drag him.
They roasted his ass. That's maybe the hardest ever.
Yeah.
For him, at least.
But then George Lucas is also interviewed talking about why he wanted to work with Jim. And, this quote alone, I'm like, I see why you two were friends.
Oh, no. Are you going to try to do his voice, too?
I think they're the same voice.
I think that's what I was going to say. I'm curious.
They're both very
It's an
much in the
experiment.
throat. They're down here. We both have merchandising opportunities and make children's films and deal with fantasy. I've respected his work for a long time. Puppetry is an ancient and completely wonderful skill that doesn't get the respect it should. Jim's kind of like me, very quiet, kind of simple, and he's kind, which comes through in everything he does.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah, but I also
that-
love that it is like just... It starts off with, we have merchandising opportunities.
That's the first point that he would like to make.
Yeah.
The second point he would like to make is that they are children's films, which feels like a direct blow to everybody who gets too mad about Star Wars online.
Yeah. It also feels like if somebody wasn't like standing to the side, like waving at him, as soon as he starts saying like puppetry is an ancient and completely wonderful skill, he would have just like talked about that for like an hour.
Yeah. Oh man, these two must have gone on and on, huh?
Well, also, like, we're very quiet and kind of simple. I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
I understand that.
I understand the quiet. The
that.
kind of simple is an interesting.
I understand that in the case that what they're able to bring to life generally is so like thematically pure in a
Yeah.
way that it is like stripped down to kind of its base essentials, which is fine.
Right.
Like Star Wars is such the platonic idea of like an adventure movie, and the Muppets are such the platonic idea of like television entertainment. Like their idea is so easy in some ways that it's like, how did nobody else think of this?
Yeah, that's true. I'll give them that. And yeah, so at this point,
That's also something that people who think they're geniuses say, you know?
I'm just so simple. It just comes
Yeah.
to me. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wake up in the morning
exactly.
and I'm like, yes, Chewbacca.
Yeah.
So yeah, around this time, they were working on editing Labyrinth. And so
Mhm.
George had come over to the UK to help them edit the last cut of the film here.
Was that a full-on co-pro between those two, co-production, or was he just there as a guest star editing?
I mean, he was the executive producer on the movie,
Okay.
so he had a hand
guess
in a
that's
lot
fine,
of
right.
it throughout the
Okay.
process.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a quote actually from May of 1985 where Jim was asked, "How is that partnership working out? Here are your two creative geniuses." And Jim responded, "Very nicely. We're working on the story at this point together, and then I'll be directing the film, and George will be doing a lot of the editing afterwards." So yeah, at this point, he was over there helping to edit the film, and then by April, Labyrinth was ready for some test screenings, and then in June 1986, the film will premiere.
Oh, 86?
Yeah.
So we're still pretty far away out.
Well, yeah, we're near the end of 1985.
Right.
But right after that, Jim wrote in his journal on October 28th, 1985, in Toronto, performing in Fraggle. So this was just him going back to Toronto to do some more directing and acting in Fraggle Rock. On this day, he would have been performing Cantus in the season 4 episode, Junior Faces the Music, which, we'll talk about in the spring.
I forgot we have way more Fraggle Rock.
Well,
to
yeah, we
watch,
do, Sam. The world is not just Muppet Babies.
Yeah.
But for now, it is all Muppet Babies as we get into the October 26, 1985 episode, I Want My Muppet TV. I gotta say, Sam, 2/3 of these episodes, pretty good.
I feel the same way. The conceit that they constructed for them makes so much sense
Mm-hmm.
and is so easy to hang different scenarios on that it would have been really hard for it to feel like they're just spinning their wheel or like they're trying to fill time, because like there's infinite amount of TV shows. If at the end of one of these episodes they were like, let's go to ancient Rome, then it would have been like whatever. But yeah, I agree. These ones were not that bad, I have to admit.
This one starts off with the kids pretending they're on a fishing trip. Skeeter catches a giant fish while Gonzo eats worms, and says a great quote that I think should stick with Gonzo. It's a good thing this is my imagination, or I'd be one sick weirdo. Because sick weirdo, obviously a phrase. He's talking about
Right.
vomiting up worms.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But imagining adult Gonzo saying that. It's like,
Or just Piggy
what are you
calling him a sick weirdo.
You sick weirdo.
Animal Shark approaches and predictably ruins their fishing trip, though. I do love, we get a couple examples in this batch of just the most mundane imaginary sequences.
Yeah, you're right.
We get a fishing trip and a post office.
I suppose in retrospect, the fact that they go awry is not part of the original game. They are just like, we're fishing, and not we're fishing and Jaws will attack us.
No,
They
their
don't like
imagination
that
is,
part.
we're just going to have a nice relaxing day on the lake. But it's time for their favorite cartoon show, Funny Freddy,
Yeah.
who we've never heard about before.
Nope,
but
and we
apparently
still
they
don't
never
ever get to
miss.
See. Well, we don't hang out with them we hang out with them 30 minutes a week. you
That's
know?
true.
They got a lot of other time to fill.
Well, unfortunately, their TV is messed up, and not even Nanny can fix it. So she has to call the TV repairman.
Yep.
And we'll say goodbye to Nanny for the rest of this episode. But Fozzie accidentally comes up with a good idea by suggesting that he pretend to be Funny Freddy and perform for the kids. And Kermit goes, yeah, that's almost something. What if we all just pretended to do our own TV shows instead?
They're so mean to Fozzie in this episode, which only in this whole set of episodes,
Yeah.
actually, which only stood out to me because he actually is telling real jokes for the most part. There's a couple of them I don't get, but like the fillet of soul joke he told
That's
while they were
great.
fishing, they say, Fozzie, these kids just don't like jokes, I think is what what I'm getting.
And I think the problem is for the viewer is that his hit rate is like 50-50.
Yeah.
Where it's like some jokes you're like, oh, that's barely a joke, guys.
Yeah.
And then the next one you're like, wait, but that was
did it.
actually surprisingly
Even
good.
positive reinforcement. He did it.
Something I love here, the first thing they pretend to do is Rolf doing a commercial for Doggy Time dog food.
Right? That had to be an accident, but
no
also...
way that was an accident. I think that was completely on purpose.
I don't know.
Rolf
I don't know if
was created for the
know.
Purina dog food commercials. So this is him getting back to his roots.
Do you think anybody working on that show knew that, though?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They have to know something about the Muppets.
Do they? I don't know.
They use
Yeah, I
footage
guess
from
you're
Muppets
right.
Take Manhattan in one of these. So they've at least
That's
seen
true.
some Muppets.
They've seen a Muppet project before. That's right. But yeah, that was exciting to me too. Back to his pitchman, his whole pitchman roots. He really thrives in that, I think.
Oh, yeah. He jumped
that
right in and was like, I am here to sell you Doggy Time dog food. But Piggy hates commercials, so she shakes their giant cardboard TV and shakes Rolf right out of it. Once again, a surprising feat of strength, where she just picks up this giant box with Rolf inside and shakes him violently out of it.
Later in one of these episodes, she rips a moose in half. It was amazing.
Well, Kermit's going to put on MBS News, which I guess there's CBS, which is, Central Broadcasting or something like that. So this is Muppet Broadcasting.
Columbia Broadcasting, I think.
Yeah. So I'm guessing this is Muppet Broadcasting service,
Something.
System. Who knows?
Sure. System. That's got to be it. Also, in the beginning of Kermit's thing, he's again like, I don't know what to do. What a loser.
Yeah, he is not, he doesn't have many ideas. He's really just around to be like, oh, I never expected anyone to pick me for this. But he launches into a pretty good news report, which is...
Yeah, if he can do anything, it's do the news. We know that.
I'm realizing I like this episode as a whole, but there are a number of moments where I wrote down like, oh, that's pretty sad that happens.
Yeah, they're kind of busting on each other a lot in this one.
Well, so the next segment is Bunsen and Beaker doing a commercial.
Yeah.
Where it's anti-nightmare pajamas that Bunsen has invented.
Mhm.
So if you're scared of falling out of bed, you have a parachute on them.
Parachute.
And Bunsen just pushes Beaker out of a plane.
And now, okay, so this is imaginary.
Yes.
I have a point to make at the end of you explaining
All
this,
right.
though.
Well, yeah, thankfully there's a parachute which catches him. The next thing is, are you afraid of scary ghost dreams? And we see Slimer from the Ghostbusters, an actual
The
clip.
Peabody Hotel or whatever that's called.
Yeah, an actual clip of Slimer from the Ghostbusters. And Beaker hits him with what they call the ghost-busting backpack, and then offers it up as a 25-cent anti-nightmare pajama set, which seems way too cheap for being able to bust
Especially
ghosts
since,
and it has a parachute in it.
They had to have nuclear material to build their proton packs in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So that's he's building them cheap. What stood out to me is that it's sad that Bunsen hurting Beaker will transition from imaginary to real. You know? Like someday in the future, he will actually be pushing Beaker.
Be like, wait a
off
minute,
the
I've thought
plane.
about this for so long.
What if I just hurt him?
What if I just...
And he does actually hurt him for the first time. I think we see Baby Beaker being hurt in a later episode.
Yeah.
In this batch.
Definitely.
And it was kind of it's worse to see a baby getting smooshed up by stuff than just a guy.
You know what, Sam? I will agree with you. The official stance of Kermitment right there. But the saddest part about this for me is they cut back to a wide shot as Bunsen and Beaker finish up. The moment they finish up, they cut back to a wide shot. All the other babies aren't looking at them at all. They're standing in a circle starting to discuss what to do
You're
next.
Right. I remember that.
And
okay.
So Bunsen and Beaker just did this for nobody.
Poor guys. They're not even supposed to be there.
Yeah, they're there more often right now. They're showing up in a
Yeah.
couple episodes back to back. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you guys were just here for playtime occasionally. You're the only ones who get to escape.
Now you possibly live here. You got
Oh,
traps, too.
no, Natty's not going to let him leave.
Yeah, or maybe like an experiment. They live in an experiment down the hall. That one went wrong.
Oh.
Sweetums ate the researcher who was working on that one. Uncle Deadly escaped. Baby Sam escaped. And then they were like, Bunsen and Beaker, we're gonna transfer you guys.
When you said Baby Sam, I imagined from Sam and Friends Sam, and I was picturing a creepy baby with a wooden head.
They're really deep in the facility somewhere.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, next up we have Gonzo's turn to make a TV show, and he goes for Weirdo Trek.
Gotta hand it to Gonzo. He does a killer Spock impression.
This one is great.
Yeah, this should have been the whole episode. This should just be the show that they do for every episode.
We get actual footage from Star Trek. They call it the Starship Second Prize.
Yeah, I missed that.
We
That's
have
funny.
Captain Kermitment, which is a good name, but every time they have to say it, the voice actors are like, Captain Kermitment. Like they have to hit that middle K so hard. Gonzo is Spock, but is just called Mr. Weirdo.
Mr. Weirdo.
Which is a bummer
Sucks.
because the others
are so good.
we have Scooter, who is Scooty, and Rolf is Dr. Dogbones.
That one is great. That one's amazing.
But the static Klingon spaceships attack, and Piggy, Bunsen, Beaker, and Fozzie are all I guess they are the static
I
Klingons.
guess. Yeah.
Who-
Not dressed like you would think of as a Klingon, but whatever.
No, they just have antenna, which I guess is bad guy in their
Mhm.
weirdo Trek world. But they fire photon tomatoes.
Which is also pretty good. That's a good pun, I think.
Yes, I do think it almost would be better if Fozzie wasn't one of the ones firing tomatoes, because I feel like
Oh,
notoriously he is the one getting them fired at him.
that's a great point.
So to solve this problem, they're going to beam aboard the static Klingon ship. So Scooty attempts to beam them, but messes up and dials the wrong number, leading to the fly situation where Kermit and Gonzo swap limbs when they first show up on the static Klingon ship.
I found this to be sort of too subtle, though, because their bodies look so similar. I didn't even really notice what had happened.
Yeah, I was hoping for the closest thing we could get to actual canonical Muppets to exist, and really it's barely noticeable. So much so that when I tweeted an image of this, somebody asked if it was just an animation mistake, which wouldn't have been rare for
Wouldn't
Muppet
have been
Babies.
shocking. Yeah.
But now it's time for a commercial break from Animal, who wants to sell us dirt.
This is the best part of the episode, I think.
There's another episode where the best and worst part of the episode is all Animal.
And he's back in his little crayon world during this, and he'll go back to his crayon world, which that's always exciting to me. And they call it out too, that crayon world is Animal's imagination.
Yeah, later on in one of the other episodes, Gonzo says, I like that Animal always thinks in crayon. I like to think in finger paint. And I'm like, you don't.
Demonstrably untrue.
Yeah.
You're the only other Muppet Baby with a established style for your fantasies, and it is not finger paint.
We see you constantly with real footage, looking in closets, opening up doors,
Yeah.
and seeing all these real films. Like, we've never seen finger paint style from you, Gonzo.
No.
But Rolf, the king of segways, wheels in a piano and says, I want my Muppet TV.
It's
And
like, what the
they're
fuck
like,
are you talking about?
what does that mean? And he's like, I want my Muppet TV. And they're like, oh, that, I guess you mean you want to make a music video.
That part was crazy.
It is. Well, especially because, like, obviously at the time, I Want My MTV was a thing.
Yeah, and they played music videos back then.
Yeah.
Now they just play ridiculousness.
Yeah, it's, I like the idea of Rolf when he's not hanging out with the other Muppet Babies is off watching MTV, so he's able to make this
That is
reference.
That is pretty cool, yeah.
And in this, we get the first non-doo-wop song we have ever heard on Muppet Babies.
Yeah, and it doesn't even turn. I think we've had a song that's almost new wave that has transitioned into doo-wop
Yeah.
partway through. This one's just new wave the whole way through.
Yeah, this one.
And I didn't want to believe it. I kept being like, this has got to be. But then they started doing like the robotic clap sounds, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this isn't. It's official. It's new wave.
It's got some 80s new wave, Devo-ish style going on here with all the keyboards. And it's just a wild music video because it's called TV Maniacs. And there's some bizarre TV Maniac characters in the music.
Like TV addicted people who are slowly turning into TVs.
And they kind of look like Beaker a little bit.
They do look a little too much like Beaker.
But it's
perhaps.
so weird to sing a song making fun of people being obsessed with TV on a TV
Right?
show where the characters are so obsessed with TV that they decided to make their own TV shows.
Yeah. I feel like every children's series has an episode where it's like, don't watch too much TV. And it's like, come on.
And again, if that ended up being the lesson of this episode, maybe like if Nanny was like, maybe it's a good thing the TV broke today. You guys got to have some fun. But instead, she's just trying to get them in front of the boob tube as fast as possible.
A very hypocritical song.
I like that Gonzo seems to be dressed up like Boy George in this. Piggy's dressed like Madonna. I couldn't tell who Kermit's supposed to be, but he has like a bandana around his neck.
George Michael, perhaps?
Maybe. I put down in my notes at the time, best song by default, because it wasn't a doo-wop song. Little did I know we were getting off the doo-wop train pretty soon.
Yeah.
But as this episode starts to wrap up, the kids are trying to decide what to do next, and you can feel the padding for time creeping in. Piggy suggests, what if I go on the Johnny Carson show?
And everybody acts like this is the most insane thing anyone's ever said in their entire lives.
Well, I think it means that they are acknowledging that, like, one, you're not famous enough, and two, it's past your bedtime, they say.
But you all were just in space, so let's calm down.
But worth noting that Miss Piggy did have her debut on The Tonight Show back in May of 1974 when she was like Piggy Lee, lip syncing to That Old Black Magic. And we see a clip of Johnny Carson introducing Miss Piggy, and this is taken from when she was actually on the show promoting Muppets Take Manhattan.
And we watched that, correct?
We did, yeah. This cuts off right before Puppet Miss Piggy slides into frame, and we cut to a shot of Johnny in a completely different suit. Presumably a clip of him talking to somebody else, maybe a child. I don't know. I thought maybe it was the Drew Barrymore episode because I know he interviewed her once on The Tonight Show. Watching it is not the same suit that he interviews her in, so I'm not sure. But he's looking down towards a chair and is like, "Do you have any boyfriends?" And so I'm like, that's what creepy old dudes in the 80s would ask like a 4-year-old.
Would ask a child, yeah.
But I'm not sure where they took the original footage from, but it's impressive that they animate Piggy into this.
Yeah. I was expecting it to be new Johnny Carson footage, but so I was a little disappointed, like when you teased it last week.
Yeah, I thought it might be too that they actually got him like they did with who was it, Tom Selleck or whatever, where he just like randomly was like,
just
"Oh, hi,"
like actually 4 seconds, being like, "Miss Piggy, great to see you."
But I feel like if I assumed this was from an episode of The Tonight Show.
I'm sure.
And
if it wasn't, they wouldn't have had to paint over the chair with a fake chair.
Right. Good call.
That's just kind of what they do the rest of the episode.
Yeah, Johnny says, "Would you like to do something for us?" And Piggy goes over to do a poem, and then Fozzie wants his big break, so he sneaks into the episode, and this is, at this point, very dull, and I'd like this episode to be over, which it kind of is until Johnny laughs at one of Fozzie's jokes. And instead of Fozzie's friends realizing that this means Fozzie is officially actually funny, they instead decide that Johnny is an easy audience, and so that they can all now be on The Tonight Show.
Brutal conclusion.
But then Nanny comes back in with the TV, which is now fixed. And as Sam said earlier, the kids would rather keep making their own shows, ending with Gonzo doing the Weirdo Zone.
Which maybe would have been more fun than the Johnny Carson
Absolutely.
segment. But I guess Gonzo can't have 2 whole segments to himself.
I can't imagine we don't see a Twilight Zone homage once or twice more on the Muppet Babies before the end of it. Overall, pretty strong episode, I gotta say.
Yeah, fine. Even though, like, the Johnny Carson part was a little boring at the end, but it was still kind of like, oh, it's kind of cool. Yeah. They're doing something a little different. And it wasn't completely nonsensical.
Yes, even the padding part with the Johnny Carson wasn't half the episode, which is always great. And next on November 2nd, 1985, we have Musical Muppets, the 8th episode of the season. Bunsen and Beaker are here again, and Piggy has opened a pretend post office.
Wow,
I mean, she's doing well. She's got stacks of like 500 letters behind her.
That's true.
Those kids are sending a lot of mail to maybe their parents asking, "Where are you?"
Well, what really stands out to me in this setup is that Rolf gets mail to the nursery.
Right.
That seems like a big piece of evidence about something.
Yeah, but before that, Skeeter wants to buy some stamps, and Rolf is in charge of making the stamps by sticking a roll of paper towels and some paint inside his piano. And
then smashing it all up like a printing press, and it works. Is this imagination? Who knows?
I mean, presumably. But there's just so many mail puns, and like 5 of them are about airmail at the beginning of this episode that I was not...
This is Fozzie tells another funny joke, because he says, dirty, what do you call, I don't know. But
he wants to send smog to somebody, and Piggy says something about like, how are we going to send smog? And he's like, dirty airmail.
And everyone's like, Fozzie, shut up. That's another basically real joke.
Yeah. but there's like 3 or 4 different times they do an airmail pun.
Oh, right.
Which is-
because Bunsen has like the vacuum. He's blowing it around.
Mhm.
Right.
So I was a little worried about this episode at this point because this is not a
Just be 400 airmail jokes. Very short. That would be crazy.
But this is when the real letter shows up for Ralph. And he says, wow, this is incredible. And they go, what does it say? And he says, how should I know? I can't read. Which, fair. But I also feel like we could go back and find examples of these kids reading things.
I think you're right because they're looking at books a lot, at least.
Right. But there's a lot of
assume-
picture books.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're picking up more than you would get from a picture.
And you'd think Scooter at least knows the alphabet. if he
Scooter's
can
gotta use a
the
computer. Yeah.
So he can read.
He's like doing code and shit. Like,
Yeah.
somebody in that group can read. But
But I'm not sure Rolf can read in the future either. I think as a dog, he may never be able to read.
I mean, he's made vote for Rolf signs. He's
Oh,
written
you're
letters to
right.
Lassie. So,
You're right.
although,
Oh, he wrote letters. I think maybe.
did
was he
Jimmy
having-
write the letter?
Was he giving dictation?
Hmm.
I'm not sure.
Well, I don't remember. I have to go back and watch all those again.
Let's start the whole thing over. We forgot the beginning.
But the letter is for the toy piano owner in the house. It's from the Tiny Way Piano Company.
What's the real name? Steinway?
Steinway.
Is that what
Yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
great pun.
It's close. It's almost something.
And they're having their annual Young Person's Songwriting Contest and would like to invite Rolf to enter. And the winning prize is your song will be played on the radio once.
Does it really specify
It
once?
doesn't, but it seems to be like, no one has delusions that like, oh, Rolf, you're going to be famous after this. It's like, anyone
He's
can get
really
on the radio once. We've been on the radio
That's
twice.
true. You're right. You're right. Anybody could run into a radio station and scream into the microphone.
Yeah, you've seen Jingle All the Way. It's easy. So the kids immediately grab their instruments to help out Rolf, which he didn't necessarily ask for.
He didn't want them to do it, and this whole episode is about ruining Rolf's big chance, basically.
Yeah, which I feel like we saw that maybe with Gonzo or Fozzie in a past episode where it's all about them, and then the other kids are like, don't worry, we got you, even though
Yeah.
we don't really need to be a part of this.
Yeah, like Fozzie learning how to be funny,
Yeah,
and they all just immediately are funnier than him.
Yeah.
But in this one,
let's help Fozzie by being better. And Rolf, again, these kids don't understand what a songwriting contest is because he starts to play some Beethoven.
he'll be disqualified.
That's a song, Rolf. Clearly you know that. But
You're doing plagiarism.
but his piano is out of tune, and Fozzie suggests taking it to an auto repair shop to get a tune-up, which you might think was just a bad Fozzie joke that they're going to groan at. But they decide to, you know what? Let's actually do that. Bunsen and Beaker are the workers at an auto repair shop.
That again made sense in a way that I could see in a movie them pulling up to an auto repair shop and Bunsen and Beaker, a grown-up puppet, Bunsen and Beaker being like in the jumpsuits and like being really bad at it.
It's sort of like when they are randomly in the Old West town at the end of the Muppet movie.
Maybe it would have been better if they had pulled up to an old gas station, huh? Bunsen and Beaker have been in there. That part of the Muppet movie is inexplicable, basically.
We've been here the whole time.
Yeah.
And we have these growing pills, animal. But
There sure are a lot of skeletons around. Interesting.
this is my experiment town where I have murdered a
This
whole...
wasn't a ghost town when we showed up. Yeah.
Beaker's more resilient than the original inhabitants of this western town.
Oh, it's like that. It's like Unbreakable, where Mr. Glass has to like crash the train to find the unbreakable person.
That's okay.
Bunsen's like, somebody in this town is unkillable. I'll figure it out.
Well, they add an engine, wheels, and paint flames on the side of the piano, which takes off the moment Rolf starts playing it. And they decide, you know what, we're done here. Let's submit that.
Somewhere in there, Rolf is like, I wrote my song. It's like, when exactly did that happen? But
When he was
okay.
chaotically playing Beethoven, I guess.
Yeah.
And this is when, you know, kind of the story is over for the episode.
Yeah, Rolf did it.
Yeah.
He's done.
But the other babies decide that they also now are going to write songs for the contests. They went from helping Rolf to immediately wanting to be his competition.
Yeah, they're all, when it comes out of that dream sequence, they're all looking so sad. And he's like, this is supposed to be a positive thing. What's going on? And they're like, we hate that you have this, Rolf, and we have to all take it away from you. And wouldn't it be fun if you were competing against 10 more people than you originally were?
Well, Piggy first up imagines herself as Piggy Parton, but in her imagination, she doesn't have a song to sing.
It's the day of the big concert, and she's like, I have not a single song.
And Kermit Kristofferson, her songwriting
weird
partner,
Yeah.
starts singing "Frog, Frog in the Swamp," and she's like, "Ugh, no, I don't like that." Even though part of the lyrics include, "If you're a toad, stay out of the road, 'cause the cars that drive by, they don't honk."
I thought it was quite a good song, actually.
It's not bad.
She hates it so much she throws him out the window of the tour bus into a trash can.
After which he goes to see the actual Dolly Parton, I think.
Yeah, I love that. He's like, I know what to do. And then he makes the trash can tip over and he rolls it all the way to Dolly Parton's house. And then he's like, I can't afford a cab, which is just like such a great piece of absurdity that he decides to travel in that garbage can all the way there. But yeah, it bothered me that then the door opens and it is Dolly Parton. So in this world, there is Dolly Piggy and Dolly Parton.
But we don't get technically confirmation that is Dolly Parton. They don't say her name.
That's true.
We just hear a voice, and we assume it's Dolly Parton.
Yes.
But she knows who Kermit is.
Yeah, she knows Kermit Kristofferson.
She's the one who calls him Kermit Kristofferson.
Yeah. You think if Muppets were real, there'd be like a Muppet version, like a parody Muppet version of every celebrity? Like, would there be like, oh, that's Pig version of George Clooney, you know?
I mean, Sesame Street
Clooney.
kind of has that. They've done so many homages and parodies through the years that I think they have most celebrities, locked down.
Remember when they used to give celebrities a Muppet version of themselves on the Muppet Show?
Yeah, for like the first 3 episodes or whatever it was.
That was so scary, yeah.
But I mean, hell, they even did a Mad Men parody on Sesame Street at one point, so
that's true.
There's a lot of Muppet parodies out there already.
Uh-huh.
Well, after Kermit and Piggy do a lovely country duet song, and now it's Fozzie's turn, and he wants to do a funny song, which was worrying at first. I didn't know what this was going to be. But he launches into a very funky song.
Yeah, it's kind of like spoken word, a little bit like...
Waka, 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 Fozzie Bear is gonna talka, is the lyric.
It's close to rap, but not quite.
Yeah. It was shocking that we're getting so many. We had a country song. We had this, talk, rap, whatever he's doing. Bizarre that it's just taken such a hard left turn away from doo-wop.
Like the writers revolted. They like locked themselves in the music writers like locked themselves in the studio and they're like, we're not doing it anymore. You can't make us do it anymore. And then at the end of a song, everyone's like, that song sucked ass. But his song was no worse than any other song we've ever heard on this show.
Yeah. And especially compared to what wins. Like,
yeah, totally. And if I got that song and I was like, a baby wrote this song, I'd be like, we must study this baby.
Well, yeah, because even, the next thing up is Scooter's turn. Bunsen says lots of music is written on computers. But, was it at the time?
I guess composed on computers, possibly.
That was a pretty new, thing at the time, which I guess maybe Bunsen is alluding to that, hey, electronic music is getting big. We should get on the ground floor of this.
I mean, I guess if you're lumping in, which you wouldn't, but if you lumped in synthesizers and stuff like that, those have been around forever. But that's not a computer necessarily. So I guess he's on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
He just knows things.
Well, the introduction is, my name is Scooter, and this song is called Computer Scooter, which, come on, Scooter. But apparently something is wrong with the computer, so they have to go inside and take a look. And they're looking for the RAM. And we see a RAM. That attacks Fozzie.
Yeah.
And then
Scooter's like, no, that's wrong. You still have a RAM in your computer, dude. Sort your shit out first.
Well, and then we meet a group of electronic musicians who feel like they try to give the kids cigarettes.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Hey.
Yeah, they're just like old session musician guys.
Yeah, are you cool or not, kid?
And they meet him and they're like, oh, yeah, we're just taking 5 bytes, that is. As in computer bytes. And I wish I was smart enough to, really dissect how insane that line of thinking is.
Well, and also, okay, so you're taking 5, which usually just means you're taking a break. In this case, though, taking 5 is bytes.
Eating.
So you're like, I'm taking 5 bytes. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so you're taking a lunch break. And it's like, computer bytes, that is. And you're like, oh.
Now you've recontextualized taking 5 as always being about eating.
Yes.
I think, yeah. You've created a new reality and then written a joke about that. It was amazing.
But then they play a little instrumental electronic song that lasts about 5 seconds, and Scooter's like,
Yep.
I did it.
That was it. Yeah, it took 4 months to render out that little bit of music, so you better appreciate it.
Next up, Skeeter wants to write a marching song and then just kind of does.
And she does. And she does.
There's nothing that happens beyond they realized that they forgot to give a song to Skeeter, and they're like, shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Give her 5 seconds of marching music, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's way worse than Fozzie's, and no one calls her out
No
on
one
it.
says anything. Nothing. And if it's in your imagination, really all she was doing was marching around. No music. But as we'll learn, all of this got recorded somehow.
But Gonzo first wants to do a rock song, and he needs a rock band. So he pulls out a box full of rocks, but they refuse to play because there's no rolls.
So he brings in the sexiest things we've seen on the Muppet Babies so far. Pieces of bread with sexy legs and lipstick on, and they're just troubling to me for some reason. The shapes of all of these, just the shapes going on here.
Yeah, it's like sexy Mayor McCheese.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's exactly what it's like.
But it's actually got
I'm
less
sure-
features because it's like a hamburger bun with lipstick and legs.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some people out there who watched Muppet Babies as a child, and they look at Hamburger Bun today and they think, oh, why do I think
Why
that,
do I
though?
want to kiss this burger?
I want to smoochy this burger bun. Anyway, maybe I'm bringing a lot of my own stuff to it.
Yeah, for Sam, the words sexy Mayor McCheese is redundant.
I don't think he's sexy at all.
All right, well, I'm not going to make you rank the McDonald's friends by sexiness.
I could, because I just instantly did in my head.
Well, give us...
Do you want to know? Number 1's Ronald.
Interesting. Well...
Number 2's Birdie the early bird.
Okay.
The rest are all tied for last.
You're just lumping Grimace and Hamburglar in as equals?
As equally sexy with each other. Okay, Hamburglar ranks above that. Then maybe the Hamburger Head guys. Ugh. I don't even know. This is my problem I'm thinking of. How do they lay down? They have to sleep standing up like Big Bird.
Maybe they have a hole
They'd have to be like,
in like a mattress and they just like their bodies go down into it and their heads are held up
head has to
on top of the
slide.
mattress.
They have to sleep in it's like a massage table basically.
Yeah, but their
but
bodies
just
are
with a
through it.
way bigger slot. Oh, their bodies.
Yeah.
are through it.
I'm picturing
I
like they just
understand.
drop down vertically
Yeah.
and then their heads just rest
Are
on
they
top.
hanging?
Yeah, kind
Are
of.
they hang-
I guess. But they're burgers, so maybe they don't have a throat that really works.
Ew. Okay.
But yeah, we
Anyway.
got Mayor McCheese and Officer Big Mac.
Yeah. And how do they sleep? If you have any ideas, write us in. Let us know.
Don't forget Captain Crook. I'm not sure where he falls on the...
I, of course, didn't forget
Sexy
Captain
list.
Crook, but I didn't say him. Captain Crook and the Professor, very forgotten characters. I mean, the Professor would have to rank highly, too, because he's just a guy.
yeah,
in
so humans
terms of
rank highly.
sexiness,
So
Yeah.
I feel like Hamburglar might eke out Birdie the early bird.
To you, maybe. To me? I don't know.
All right.
But I think Ronald undeniably is the sexiest
All
one.
right, but I want...
Ronald's just got something going on for him.
I'm going to send you a list. I found a thing. I was looking at the McDonald's characters so I could make sure we didn't miss anybody on listchallenges.com. And I'm going to challenge you that this isn't the sexiest picture of Grimace I've ever seen.
Okay, so you think it is. Remember when Hamburglar was sexy, though?
When he was an actual human?
Yeah, do you remember that?
I do for a short period of time.
There's like one picture, and everybody lost their minds, and then they're like, never mind, we're not going to do this. You know what? His eyes, he does have those eyes, doesn't he? He might be sexier than Hamburglar.
Especially in these
Just
pictures.
look at
But I...
Hamburglar's not thinking about sex. He's only thinking about stealing. Grimace, on the other hand, and all the food, the Happy Meal food. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to think about this a lot.
All right, well, we'll let you think about it, and we'll move on to talk about more Muppet Babies for now. Just know, everyone, as you listen to the rest of this episode, both Sam and I are thinking about this in the background.
Yeah, and for my entire life, basically.
Well, then we get to the moment where Bunsen finally actually injures Beaker for the first time in real life, because Bunsen introduces the solar-powered one-man band, which Beaker is sort of playing, mostly just being attacked by, as it beats him up. The drums hit him, the horns hit him, everything runs into his face and head. He tries to close the curtains because it's solar powered, and they immediately fly open, and he has to jump out to escape a certain death.
And it's kind of horrible.
Oh, yeah.
And this is when Bunsen gets his first taste of blood.
Thankfully, he has a backup, which is a self-propelled follow the bouncing ball.
Oh, yeah, this was weird.
Yeah, so Beaker sings Row, Row, Row Your Boat, and we get to see the meep, 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 meep on the screen as the bouncing ball goes over the lyrics he's saying.
Yeah, this was weird because it was almost something.
Right.
But it wasn't quite something.
Because I think it's just very, it's multi-layered where you have like the meta-ness of having the lyrics on the screen with the bouncing ball. You have calling out the fact that he's singing a song we all know, but the lyrics we see on screen are just meeps that he is saying. So I think it's just like, it's too much.
Too many layers.
Yeah.
And I'm picturing this on the Muppet Show, and I think this would have worked on the Muppet Show.
Right.
Muppet Labs, here's my ball. And then it could have been like visual thinking, like that old, and then like maybe it would never stop. And like as everybody's talking, it's just like,
right.
And they're just like, get these freaking words out of our way. The whole episode.
I like that.
And we just wrote a great episode of the Muppet
Look
Show.
at us, professional Muppet writers. Somebody pay us.
Somebody send us back to 1969.
But Animal, of course, comes in and eats the ball. And now he proclaims, me song, me song.
And then they're like, Animal, you can't even talk.
I think Piggy
Come
even says, like,
on.
you can't talk right. How do you expect to sing?
Horrid.
So Animal just starts drumming on everything with footage all around the world of him drumming on monuments. That kind of goes nowhere.
Yeah.
But
A kind of rare, super in-character moment for a Muppet Baby, basically. Like, he's a drummer.
yeah, he does do
That's what he does.
a good amount of drumming throughout these.
Mhm.
Like whenever they say, hey, let's go grab our instruments, most of the kids just grab a random one. Like Kermit will play the saxophone and then Fozzie will play the saxophone or whoever. But Animal is always on the drums.
He's always holding it
Every
down
time.
on the skins. That's right.
So Gonzo goes to turn off the recorder because they're all done. They've all done their songs. And this is when he ruins the tape. It unspools, it spits out, and it wraps him up. And Kermit wants to fix the tape, so he cuts the tape off so they can untangle it.
They all take this very well, too.
Oh, yeah. No,
Right?
no one.
Nobody's like, Gonzo.
Not even Rolf, who's like, the main one as a part of this, loses
Yeah.
it. We get to see Skeeter wind it back up into a cassette tape with a pencil.
Incomprehensible to anyone under the age of 30, probably.
Yeah. Skeeter walking around with a pencil saying, and here's the music now. But you can see this coming. You see what's going to happen here. The moment they start cutting up that tape, you're like, all right, it's going to be a jumbled up mess.
Honestly, I thought it was going to all come together to a new song magically.
Same.
That's what should have happened.
Well, yeah, because you know what is a great version of that? Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Oh, right.
Where Emmett and his
right.
friends perform a song, they don't win the talent show. Ma Otter performs a song, also doesn't win the talent show. They perform their songs together,
Two
and it
great
becomes a
tastes that
song
taste better together.
good enough to get a job at a restaurant.
Yep. The fanciest restaurant in all the land.
The only restaurant in the land, I think.
That's a good point, too. Yeah.
But that's how this should have gone. It should have been like,
Mhm.
oh, wow, if we all work together, we can make a great song. But nope. Instead, we get just one song after the other played on the radio, attributed to the Muppet Babies.
Which is weird, because did they write that on the thing? Who knows?
Right, did Nanny submit this? It says, like, this is from the Muppet Babies, not from
Yeah.
Kermit, Rolf, Fozzie, Gonzo. Yeah, so canonically, once again, they are the Muppet Babies.
The Muppet
They know they are
Babies.
Muppet Babies.
And that there's non-baby Muppets out there in the world, I suppose.
Oh, that's more unsettling, I think.
Throwing into question what a Muppet is in this world. Who knows?
But that kind of wraps up the episode. They get their song on the
Yeah,
radio.
the song sounds like trash.
Absolute
Like,
garbage.
Maybe I'll even clip it and put it in right now. Here it is.
That's your song, Rolf. I won. Wow.
Waka, 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 finding the chicken across the road. You run home. We'll feel the little frog.
See, it sounds really bad.
It sounds like Sam probably did a bad job of editing. But no, the Muppets did.
I didn't. Yeah, and the guy on the radio was like, that rules. Good job.
I will say, though, I did like this episode overall.
Yeah, this was a fun one, too. It was like I was scared because I knew it was going to be all music, but they were they really had self-control, and the music was short.
Can you imagine if these were all doo-wop songs?
Full-length doo-wop songs would be really bad.
It's like, I got another song that's different from yours, I promise. Shoop-be-doo-wop, shoop-be-doo-wop. He's like, damn it, this is the 8th doo-wop song in this episode.
That would have been troubling. But yeah, I agree. This was actually a pretty quality episode.
I also like that most of the episodes end where, when they have a really central focus, that the kids sort of wrap it up. Nanny asks what's going on, and they say, like, we had so much fun. We're just going to keep doing that thing, even after the audience leaves. And so it lets you imagine pretty clearly what playtime is going to continue looking like once you're not watching anymore. But the go-bye-bye at the end of this episode is Gonzo sleeping inside of Animal's bass drum.
Weird. Even for Gonzo, this is weird.
Well, and if he enjoyed it, I think that would be better.
Yeah, if it was like,
this is
the sweet sounds that lull me to sleep.
Yeah, this is the only way I can get a good night's sleep is to sleep in Animal's bass drum. Which this is a weird side callback between the bonus episode of the new Muppet Babies we watched this week, which we're not going to talk about in depth. We will
tune back in 10 years.
Yes, we'll come back and talk about it in 10 years. But they do the thing in that episode that we talked about a few weeks ago, which is Gonzo getting a weird sandwich.
Yes, I thought that too. Obviously he'd eat a weird sandwich.
I don't remember what it was, but it was like,
anchovy or something like that.
Anchovy and rhubarb or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we had called out that Nanny serves him just like peanut butter and banana. As not a weird enough sandwich.
I ate a peanut butter and banana sandwich like yesterday. Am I weird? Maybe. But that wasn't why I ate it. It was good.
But yeah, in that episode, I'm like, hey, they did it right. Good job. Well, the last episode we watched this week is What's New at the Zoo from November 9th, 1985. Worryingly, starts off with the kids on safari.
Playing big game hunter.
Yeah.
They just call it right out.
They say, we are big game hunters trying to get a lion. Thankfully, they don't seem to know what hunting is, so they just trap a lion.
And the first thing I wrote when I was taking notes was, will they leave the house this episode? Pretty quickly, the answer is clearly absolutely not. We're not drawing any new backgrounds. What are we talking about?
Well, they capture Animal in a blanket and toss him in a trash can for a cage. And they're like, well, what do we do with him now? And they suggest taking him to the zoo.
Then we learn a lot about Rolf and what's going on inside of his head.
Rolf says, I don't think so, and is very sad because the zoo reminds him of the dog pound.
Does that mean he's been in the dog pound?
A fantastic question, Sam. We don't.
Did she find all of these guys in the dog pound?
It's like a Lilo and Stitch situation. We were like, I don't think that's a dog.
I don't think this human pig is a dog. So I'm just gonna take all these guys home with me.
But yeah, it's definitely like alluded to the fact that Rolf at least knows what a dog pound is, maybe has visited one, or perhaps even lived in one for a period of time.
Yeah, it really, really stuck with him.
Yeah, he says this reminds him of the dog pound where all the poor animals are locked up in cages, and the kids are all like, wow, I never thought of it like that. And we get to pause on this wide shot of all the kids looking real sad while Animal's just in a cage. And I took a screenshot because I was like, this is like maybe the saddest moment in Muppet Babies history. But Annie comes in and says, hey, you guys seem really sad. Something happened in here. Piggy says, Rolf says zoos are no fun for animals. And I think Rolf says, wouldn't the animals be happier if they weren't in the zoo? And at this moment, I was like, this feels like something that's going to be too big to tackle on this show.
The answer to that question is absolutely they would be. And then she was like, so then Nanny's just like, nah, zoos are great. She's like, not all animals would be happier. And I almost thought she was going to say, like, sometimes they get eaten out in the wild. It's like, well, that's what's supposed to happen, Nanny. But instead she's like, their place where they live is getting destroyed by cities, so we have to put them in the zoo so they'll survive. It's like, nah, I don't think that's really going to work, but okay.
The solution to your problem was sort of in your explanation that maybe we stop destroying their habitats so we don't have to keep them in zoos.
No thought is given to the habitat destruction part of it.
No. This is a weird episode. I will say this is my least favorite of the three by far.
Maybe one of my least favorite we've ever watched, actually.
There's such weirdness that happens later in this episode that saved it a little bit for me.
Okay,
But overall,
maybe
a
you're
weird
right.
episode.
Just in terms of like tackling the topic at hand, it's not even fun like the history one
Right.
where she's like, they killed this guy.
It does.
And this one, she's just like, I'm wrong about zoos.
It does do a similar thing to the history one, though, where when they actually try to get into the stories themselves, it goes off the rails so fast and is so
Absolutely.
irrelevant to the actual thing we were
Yeah.
trying to talk about.
Yeah. The problem is that you're supposed to draw a conclusion from the end of this episode.
Right.
And when Rolf is like, zoos are great, then you think back on the evidence presented to him, like I said in my thing, and it's like, nothing addressed this at
There
all.
is one line in this that I will get to that is the only thing that convinces Ralph.
Okay.
But before we get to that, we get a very sad line again from Kermit saying, "Wouldn't it be great if we could go to a zoo?" And you realize you can't because you don't get to leave this nursery.
You're not going to get to go to the zoo, unfortunately. Here's a book about the zoo.
Yeah, Piggy's like, "We can in our imagination."
She's in on it. She's part of the experiment.
Well, we've always said she's the smartest Muppet Baby, so she is
Yep.
caught on. And
Yeah.
Nanny was like, "Okay, I know this is upsetting. You've learned a lot."
They're sitting in a stark white room. First of all, I have to say, they're sitting in a completely stark white room when Nanny's telling her this at a big metal table. Piggy's wandered out in the middle of the night. She like figured out the key combination to get out into the rest of the facility.
Yeah.
She's like, Nanny, what's happening? Then Nanny says what?
And then instantly she's hit with a trank dart, and she wakes up in this other room, and they're like, "So, you know too much, and we'd like to let you live, but we need you as an inside man now. You
Yeah.
have to."
Frankly, you're not the first Piggy who's figured this out. We are coming to the conclusion that all Piggies will.
Yeah, you may
So
not
instead,
remember
we're just
Annie
gonna
Sue.
change
You
the
were quite
experiment.
young when Annie Sue was around, but there have been pigs before you, and there will be pigs after you. But we'd like it to happen later instead of sooner, so please cooperate with us.
Yeah. And she's like, okay, absolutely.
So she distracts the Muppets from their hellish life by talking about how flamingos are her favorite animal.
Why would that be?
Great question. I think my biggest question about this is, where's the line between animal and Muppet animal?
Muppet.
Because they
Yeah.
dance over it multiple times throughout this where they talk about animals as if they are entirely different from them. But then other times they talk about Fozzie being a bear as if he is just a
Right.
bear.
Or frequently, Rolf is just a dog.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that carries over into the Muppets at large anyway.
Mhm.
Like, Rolf really treads the line more than anybody else does. But
Right. But at least
Yeah.
it seems like, Rolf and real dogs seem like equals when they when they talk about them.
Yeah. Kermit and a real frog would be quite a strange pairing to see.
Yeah, real frogs are a little less interesting to have on camera.
Yeah.
But Piggy does a little flamingo ballet until an animal moves a pool in the way and she falls into the water. And, surprisingly, this didn't convince Rolf. He's still sad. So we learned that Skeeter's favorite animal is a chimpanzee, which she tries to turn into a burn and says, "Yeah, they look just like you, Scooter." And Scooter stamps back saying, "Well, if they look like me, they look like you. We're twins, dummy."
What a useless part of the episode.
Absolutely. But I did like, Skeeter usually gets the best of Scooter, and I liked him being able to
Yeah.
snap back at her. Again, they are trying to convince Rolf here of why zoos are great. And Skeeter's like, "Well, I like chimps because you can play sports with them."
No, you absolutely can't. And they don't play sports with each other.
I mean, there's a movie called Most Valuable Primate, Sam, where
Except for that one isolated incident, you can't play sports with any chimps.
I think there was maybe some sequels to that movie, but we won't talk about that. For this is that strange thing again the Muppets do, the Muppet Babies do, where they're trying to make a point by not actually making the point at all using real examples. So it's, "Hey, Rolf, let's teach you how great zoos are. Flamingos do ballet and chimps play sports. Do you like zoos now, Rolf?"
Yeah, the Chimp Olympics. See? Just like happens in a zoo, I guess, because we're babies who are not allowed to go to the zoo.
Well, what gets even worse is then Fozzie goes, "Oh yeah, the Olympics. Let's focus on that now," and says that his Olympic event would be funny face making. This doesn't involve animals at all.
Nope. But you know what it does involve? They actually laugh at Fozzie when he makes his funny face. He turns around with his funny face and they laugh at him.
That's true. Huh.
It's wild.
Maybe physical comedy is really where he thrives.
They are babies. They don't understand wordplay.
Yeah.
Fozzie's smarter than the
His
rest of
fillet
them.
of soul is way too smart of a joke for babies.
Yeah. Then Gonzo makes the scariest face. He looks like a Beetlejuice guy.
They all take terrifying opportunities to stretch and mold their faces. Animal just sort of pulls his head to the side, stretches it out.
This part is kind of creepy. Some of them get some strange wrinkles like on their mouths and stuff. But Gonzo pulls his nose out, wraps it around his head. Then he talks, but he talks by his tongue popping out and just wiggling around. But he's got like a pointy snake tongue for some reason.
It's upsetting.
Ugh.
But we get back to Animals by Fozzie talking about his favorite animal being hyenas, which he's obviously excited about because they'll laugh at his jokes.
I guess the conclusion to that last section is they say animals can have fun in the zoo.
Right.
This is all made
Because they
up.
play sports
They
and have
do
Olympics.
not have the Olympics in the zoo. That would be amazing if they did. That would be fucking
I feel like
cool.
somebody would shut that down pretty quickly.
It would also be illegal animal fighting, yeah.
Animal competing. We wouldn't have boxing or anything.
Yeah. No, that would be one of the only things they actually could probably do. So
Well, then Fozzie tells a bad joke, and Gonzo shows up from the bomb squad because Fozzie bombed a joke so bad that now there's a giant tomato bomb that Gonzo has to defuse. And what the hell is happening, Sam?
well, the tie-in is that he's telling a joke to hyenas.
Yes.
The hyenas literally peace out 10 seconds into the
Yeah.
bit. And then we spend a long time with this giant tomato gonna blow
Mm-hmm.
up. And then it does and nothing happens.
Nope.
In a vacuum, fine. This
Yeah.
part's fine. Out of a vacuum, Rolf's just like, what are you talking
Well,
about?
the fact that it went
Am I
from
losing my mind?
the like Olympic face making thing almost back to animals and then immediately away from animals again, I was just like, I think they're forgetting what this episode is about.
Yeah.
But thankfully, Scooter is here to save us by telling us that zebras are his favorite animal. Even though it doesn't seem like he knows what they are until like Skeeter says, "Hey, look, a zebra," and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's my favorite animal."
Well, you have mentioned before that he is quick to jump on wanting to
you're
have,
right.
like, that's my favorite job. That's my favorite. I think that's just his thing.
Yeah, he's one of those kids who, like you mentioned, like, "Hey, I'm gonna be, going on vacation to Bermuda." He's like, "I've been to Bermuda," and it's like, "Have you?"
Have you,
He's like, "Oh yeah,
though?"
me and my family, we own houses in Bermuda." You're like, this feels like a lie.
Then Rolf says another one of the saddest things I've ever heard when he says, "Not me. Their stripes make them look like they're in prison."
Yeah, which nobody reckons with. They just go, moving on.
Nah, okay.
Skeeter tells us the story of how zebras got their stripes because a black horse walked behind a fence that was being painted white. Scooter jumps in to say that's not how they get their stripes. And I thought, we might learn something here.
You know what? Maybe it'd be useful to explain anything that is real to children in this episode.
No. Instead, we get Sad Rolf teaching us they get their stripes in the zoo because of their suntan through the cage bars.
Which is pretty funny. When you say it out of context, it does sound like something they would say like on a veterinarian's hospital or something.
Thankfully, Piggy is the smartest one, and she's there to say, zebras are born with their stripes, guys.
Yeah.
And the kids still need to convince Rolf that they care about animals, so they sing a song called We Love Animals, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
Especially because it includes the chorus, "Animals are my favorite people."
Really cute. And it's reggae, not doo-wop, which is great. There's one part where they say that it's like all the fun stuff you can do with animals, which includes like go in your backyard and start hanging out with wild animals. But
I mean, as kids who have never been able to venture outside, they don't know what happens in a backyard.
that's true. It's dangerous. They met that raccoon or that koala bear that one time.
That's true. That is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to them is like the one time they got to interact with the outside world.
Yeah. To be fair, that would be the weirdest thing that would ever happen to almost everyone in the world. But
Do you think anything that weird will ever happen again on Muppet Babies?
no, I
They
don't
learned their
think so.
lesson.
I
They were
think-
like, we can't do
I
that
think they were
again.
like, we pushed it too far this time. Yeah, I mean, at least it actually happened. I think that
That's what
that's a
makes
nice-
it weirder, though.
yeah. But one of the lines in this song is, animals love to listen. Famously, that is not even remotely true of any animal that has ever existed, even humans.
Yeah, if you get a simple enough animal, I guess you won't know if they're not listening to you. But yeah, most animals aren't going to sit around and hear you tell stories. Well, Rolf loves the song, rightfully so, and is starting to get convinced that people who work at zoos actually do love animals.
This is the part where Piggy rips a moose in half also, because Kermit and Gonzo are pretending to be a moose in like a horse costume, and Gonzo tries to kiss her, and she just rips the front half of this costume out and throws him into a garbage can, maybe, or like a toy bin or something.
He's in the toy bin, because there's a great shot of him, like,
him
with antlers on, just sort of sticking out of a toy bin. But then they start talking about the reason that zoos are good is because they protect the endangered species. And they talk about how animals go extinct, which I think Kermit softly says it means when there's no more of those animals on Earth.
They talk about that animals do go extinct. They do not talk about why.
No.
Extinct.
But Fozzie asks if he's endangered. And they're like, no, there are plenty of bears, which, again, a little confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But Gonzo gets worried because that he's endangered because he asks Kermit, have you ever seen anyone who looks like me? And then Kermit's like, nope.
We've run into one of the things we can't talk about in the Muppets.
Yeah, and Gonzo says, I'm one of a kind. I'm an endangered species.
Yeah. Then Scooter and Skeeter are like, come to think of it, have you ever seen anyone who looks like me either?
What? I feel like we've heard before that people have talked about the potential that Scooter is part bird. I don't think that's anywhere in canon, but people have talked about that. But in this, at one point, Scooter calls out something about birds. And I was like, okay, so he's not a bird.
Yeah, he's definitely not a bird.
I don't think he's a bird either. But I think when people are grasping at straws, because, often Gonzo is the only one singled out for his differentness, even though many Muppets don't look like anything. But they try to make Gonzo feel a little better by looking through the animal book to find something that looks like him, and they settle on Anteater. Until we get a fun little imaginary segment where Gonzo's hanging out with his Anteater family, and he decides, I'm not an Anteater, because turns out,
they keep trying to make me
they eat ants. And he is not in favor of eating an ant burger.
That part was that when you alluded to earlier, like a good part of the episode that saves it?
Nope.
Was that it?
That's still coming.
Oh, interesting. Oh, right. You're right. But this part was pretty good, actually.
This part was all right.
If they hadn't had the conceit where it's like Rolf's depressed about the zoo, then it would have been this episode would be perfectly acceptable, I think.
Yeah. But this is actually the moment coming up where the plot is solved. They fix it. They figure it out because Gonzo's so worried, and Rolf says, well, you won't be endangered as long as we're here to take care of you. And Kermit's like, yeah, Rolf, that's what zoos are. And he's like, oh,
we're in the zoo.
Oh, shit. Like, zoos are great. we love Gonzo, and they love animals. And sure, the plot might be wrapped up now, but an animal pops up and just says the words, People Zoo.
What are you talking about, animal?
A great question that will go unanswered because Scooter says, gosh, I've never heard of a people zoo before.
Do not go further down this line of reasoning, children.
Yeah, Rolf's going to interject again and be like, well, I have. But they go into animals' imagination. And you'd probably think we're going to end up at a people zoo. We don't, folks. We get the Gonzo commenting on the fact that animal always imagines in crayon. And then we start to meet a suburb full of strange human animals.
Yeah, they go to that place that they go in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
But there's an amazing joke in this scene that I had to pause the episode to continue laughing at so I wouldn't miss anything.
Is it when Gonzo says, I think animals been eating the rug again?
That was one of them. That was also very good.
That was really good.
Mine is when they first get there and like animals just saying hi to everyone. And there's a deer who's out for a jog and just is like, oh, hey, animal, and runs by. Kermit says, who's that guy? And he goes, dear friend.
This part rules.
It's the best waste of time ever. It doesn't matter at all. They solve the plot. He brings up a concept of a people zoo that we don't even get to.
Which is good also.
Absolutely. But
yeah,
we then start to meet, because I just thought of a bunch of fun play on words, everyone around the neighborhood. We hit the hippopotaplumber, We get the ballpoint penguin.
I like that one. Who's like a guy selling ballpoint pens on the street.
Somebody thought of the wordplay and they're like, great, what does he do? And they're like,
How do we
oh,
do
he
this?
sells pens. But this is the point at which Gonzo says, something tells me Animal's been eating the rug again.
Just like, is that like they're like, he's got chemicals in
Yeah,
his
he's
brain?
like, they wanted to say he's been eating paint chips and they chose eating the rug.
Just the glue from the rugs really messing him up. It would be great if at the end of every episode when they had spare time, they were just like, well, what do you think about this animal? He's like, oh, I've been waiting to tell you.
Yeah, Animal's view on the world. Well, we get to see an octocop and a messenger giraffe.
You're really glazing over the first one they do, which is not bus driver. Animal says not bus driver, camel driver.
Yeah.
Camel driver is not a pun, is it?
No.
And he's a bus driving camel, not anyone driving a camel.
Right, which maybe Animal interprets as like if you say bus driver, it's a bus who drives. So he's not a bus and a driver. He is a camel and a driver. It's not good, but I think that's what Animal is reacting to. It's like, oh, it's a bus driver. He's like, no, camel driver.
The rest are good. That one is just confusing.
Yeah. But then they just don't go to the human zoo. It's an insane imagination thing. Nobody says, huh, we never made it to the human zoo, huh? That segment just kind of ends. And it was, I just don't get it, but I also love it.
Yeah. It was not any, and it didn't teach them anything about the zoo.
No.
Those animals weren't in the zoo. There was no threat of them being in the zoo. They all lived out.
That's a best case
Living their
scenario
lives.
world. Like, that's
Yeah.
where all the animals just live their lives without human interference.
Uh-huh.
Presumably, maybe because they have the humans in a zoo. Maybe
You're
this is
right.
like human zoo means
Yeah.
let's look at what the world could be if humans didn't put animals
All
in zoos.
humans were locked up. That's right. Every other creature would reach enlightenment.
If we only could lock up all the humans in zoos.
That's probably what it is.
Which, I mean,
animals.
Animal,
Yeah.
quite, clearly on the side of animals in this
Yeah,
debate.
he would be a revolutionary in that situation. He'd lead them all to a brave new world.
Well, at the end, Nanny comes in and reveals, you know what, kids? You've convinced Ralph. I am going to take you to the zoo tomorrow. So be happy.
We love the zoo, Nanny, because of everything we learned about it today.
Yeah, I can't wait to see those chimps play basketball.
This week kind of made me feel like I don't despise Muppet Babies.
Yeah.
If it's going to be bad, it should at least be crazy, like the animal episode, like the zoo episode was, and the other two were just fine. So I guess we'll see if 8 more seasons or whatever can keep up the pace.
Yeah, I think this made me more optimistic. I'm on the side of
Yeah.
I don't despise this, and also maybe it just gets better from here.
Yes, it feels like they're kind of figuring out a rhythm of episode that
Yeah.
works, with a few misfires every now and then when they take too big a swing about what the plot is about.
Or when they try to tackle giant human issues that we're still trying to tackle to this day. Well then, Sam, that means it's about the time that I ask you, what non-Muppet things did you enjoy this week?
We haven't talked in a while, but honestly, I haven't really watched that much stuff. Last night I went to see Poor Things.
Yeah.
I loved it. I wouldn't say it's like amazing, best movie ever, but it's it builds like such a fun world to live in that weirdly kind of reminds me of like, first of all, the set design is amazing. Like we're seeing the movie just for that. It's a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, and he made like The Lobster, Killing of the Sacred Deer, The Favorite. He just makes like weird, gross movies, and this one's like peak weird, gross. It's basically Frankenstein, but Frankenstein, the creator, the man Frankenstein, is nice, and the monster he creates, he like loves and teaches how to be a person, and it's Emma Stone. And eventually she wants to go off on her own and like learn about the world, which she does. So it's kind of like just like the life cycle of a human and the human enlightenment fast forward, because she starts off basically like baby brain and then learns about the world. But the set design is like, I hate to say this because it seems so reductive, but it's like Wes Anderson hyperdrive, kind of like wild looking, abstract-y kind of like perfect set design throughout the whole movie, and wardrobe too, and just like the plot and the way that like the time it's set, which is like the early 19th or the early 20th century, makes me really want him to direct a Popeye movie.
Oh,
'Cause
interesting.
I feel like it's got the same grimy feel of Popeye. It's got the same snob versus slob kind of thing, where I could see like his version of Popeye just like uppercutting the head off of like some rich
man.
landowner.
You thought
or
the
something
last
at the end
Popeye
of the
movie was weird. Wait until you see his Popeye.
Yeah, yeah, but it just feels. I've read a lot of old newspaper comics in my
Yeah.
life, and for some reason that was the main. It feels like Little Nemo and Slumberland. It feels like Crazy Cat. It feels like Popeye, and so the whole time I was just like, "This is the best movie I've ever seen," and I loved it.
Nice.
And then yeah, that's pretty much it. I just been kind of like scrambling around otherwise, and haven't watched that much stuff. But it's almost Oscar season, so I got a lot to catch up on.
Kind of the same. I haven't been watching too much. Since the last time we chatted, I think like the big things are still watching old F1 races because we're still in the off season of F1. And Devin and I are watching The Nanny.
Oh wow, how's that?
It's great. We're into season 2 of The Nanny, and a very good show that I watched a lot as a kid, but not consistently. And it's even better as an adult.
Because you get all the jokes now.
Yeah. Not all of them. Some are so specific to the time period that I'm like, oh man, the crowd just lost their shit and I have no idea what's happening. It's like watching the Golden Girls where you're like, that must be an 80s famous man because...
whoever that guy you talked about who's handsome, they've been dust for several decades at this point.
They also have the thing where like they'll have a lot of cameos and like someone will walk in the door and they get a solid like 10-second applause break and I'm like, I have never seen that man before in my life.
Oh, you know what we didn't talk about at all? The Elmo's big week.
Yeah, as we're recording this was the week of Elmo in the news. You know, it started off, you thought, with maybe the biggest Elmo news of in a while, since Rocco probably, where he just tweeted, hey, how's everybody doing out there?
And everybody said, burly bad.
It sucks out here, Elmo. So much so that I'm sure part of this had to be planned because I'm sure all of this can't come together too fast. But kudos to the Sesame Street social team for turning this into a mental health discussion. Good job. But as a part of that campaign, they went on the Today Show to have Elmo and his dad talk about mental health and just talk about how you should be better and take time to talk about your feelings. And it turned out that annoyed one man who had to sit there the whole time and listen to Elmo talk about his feelings. And that man was Larry David, who decided to cross the set unprompted and punch and grab Elmo's face.
Smoosh Elmo's face up.
And take a swing at him again and just walk away. And everyone on set was appalled. Most people on the internet also appalled. It doesn't seem entirely out of character for Larry David, but also is wild that anyone would beat up a Sesame Street Muppet.
I can't even really wrap my head around it, honestly. Because also what you're doing is just grabbing a man's hand.
Yeah, and like, I almost wish there was a moment where he walked behind the couch, saw Ryan Dillon, and went, I've made a mistake.
Oh, you're a person. Sorry. Yeah.
But I think instead what's worse is that I think Larry David walks around the couch, sees Ryan Dillon, and judges that person. Like I think
you're exactly right.
I think Larry David goes like, what are you doing with your life, man who is making Elmo talk about mental health? Because even in his apologies in quotes that he's done afterwards, he basically just says like, I couldn't take it. Like having that annoying voice, that puppet talk about mental health to me was too annoying. I had to do something. And it's like, really, really didn't.
Yeah, it was shocking. It was like, it's kind of hard to watch for me at least because it's so awkward. Because it's like obviously, and then when he apologizes in quotes again, a little bit later in that same clip, he looks like grief stricken kind of.
He looks like NBC just like gave him a talking to of like, if you want us to talk about your show, you're gonna have to apologize. Otherwise, we're gonna remove you from the studio.
Yeah. He looks weird. He just looks deflated. But then later he went on one of those guys.
He went on both Fallon and Seth Meyers, I think.
Right.
And talked about it more.
This is the one I saw and was like, well, I beat him up because he was annoying. Come on, bro.
Yeah, he says, I'd do it again.
Not good. But yeah. And Elmo sounds like, it's like as close as I've ever heard to Elmo like breaking character and being like, hey, fuck you, man.
Yeah, no. And Louis, his dad, threatens to sue Larry David for assault.
And I'm sure that the Muppets or that Sesame Street probably also has thought about the same thing.
Yeah, my favorite response to this, aside from like Elmo just looking at the camera and going, "Okay," like that happened, is Dylan Gale Official, which is Ryan Dillon's other puppetry venture that he has on Instagram. Posted a little picture of Kip Baffle, one of his original characters, on a Today Show like set, and said, "Attention morning shows. Need a viral moment? We do. Our lovable, huggable Kip Baffle is available for attacking, maiming, or strangling on your show. Show must provide their own out-of-touch senior citizen."
Wild.
Which is just fantastic. And kudos to, I won't say Ryan Dillon that you did that necessarily, in case I'm not supposed to say that you did that, but whoever uploaded that post to your puppetry Instagram, good job.
So yeah, that's Elmo's week that was for everyone in the future listening to this in the wasteland. One time Elmo got beat up by Larry David.
Well, before we get out of here, we need to let you know what we'll be watching and talking about next time. And next time will still be in November of 1985. And what happens in November? That's right, a brand new season of Sesame Street debuts.
Oh gosh, we don't have to watch Muppet Babies again?
No, we're taking a little break. We'll be
Yay.
discussing season 17 of Sesame Street, the season where Mr. Snuffleupagus will finally meet the adults of Sesame Street.
Wild. It's been a long road.
And we'll get to meet a few new Muppets, like Leo the Party Monster, Placido Flamingo, and Dexter.
All right. I don't know who any of them are. Except Placido Flamingo. I do know him.
Yeah, and to talk about that, we'll be watching a Best of Season 17 playlist, Sesame Street Season 17 episode 2096, which is the debut. And then, thankfully, there are a few clips on YouTube that have compiled the street scenes of Placido Flamingo's debut, Leo the Party Monster's debut, and there's a video just called Meet Dexter that's all about clips of Dexter. So
I'm a little scared of Dexter. Who is Dexter?
you should be.
Okay.
But, Sam, again, we won't be alone next time, because next time we'll be joined by Sesame Street photographer, Muppet designer, and Emmy Award winner, Richard Termini.
Wow.
The man who designed Placido Flamingo.
Exciting.
So we'll talk to him all about his career in Sesame Street and specifically Placido Flamingo, and maybe pick his brain about who created Dexter and how that came to be in the world.
I'm not even going to look up Dexter until I'm watching the thing. I don't want to know anything about him.
Can't wait to get your reaction. So we need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Don't forget to go to Kermitment.com to listen to episodes, pick up merch, see our Muppets gallery, whatever you'd like to do. You can contact us there or at mail@Kermitment.com. And you can follow this podcast everywhere on the internet at Kermitment Pod, where we post links to the things that we're watching so you can watch along with us. And you can follow me on the internet at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.